This broadcast is brought to you by Logitech G, OG Original Gaming Gear, Speed Cafe, and the Australian Sim Racing Group.
Good evening, ladies and gents. Hello and welcome to another round of the Logitech Pro Invitational Series. Once again, we're a quarter of the way through the series. Now we step into the middle portion. This is where that hard start, that tough round at Sebring will start to come back to you. Is somebody able to turn their championship around, or is someone going to run out of rubber? That's a question we're going to be asking a lot of different times tonight. Scotty Rankin on the call once again, off alongside of Stephen, Sam, Man, Clark, and a big shout out to Dan Yeaman stepping in behind the scenes to run the production for us tonight. It's been a while since we've really talked tyres, and I mean really talked tyres, Sam, Man, but tonight in Spain, it's going to be tough, it's abrasive, it's long, it's loaded. This is going to be a race that tests your ability to look after the rubber.
Absolutely. Good evening, Scott. Good evening, everyone. This is an absolute ripper of a racetrack. One of the ones that I tend to do a lot of laps on, just because it's one of the newest ones and not a lot of data. So that's going to be something that'll be interesting, won't it? You say that tyre wear is going to be crucial, and I think falling back on the fact that it's such a new racetrack for us, that's really going to be key as well.
Yeah, not a lot of time for the drivers to sit down and test their mettle. It's been on the service for close to a year now, and every single time it comes here, there's something refreshing about it. It's a newer style of racetrack. It just creates that little bit of something different. It's been in operation since 1985. It's hosted a few Formula One races in its time. It also plays host to the MotoGP race just about every year. It's on this layout as well. That little chicane you see in red down there at turn 11, not in use here tonight. Turn 1, it's tight, it's tough, it's technical, it's tricky. And I tell you what, Sam, man, it's actually a place where they test new safety features, the air barriers that are in operation around this place. This was the first track in the world to have them. It's where they actually tested them.
Oh, there you go. A little bit of juicy information I didn't even know. So good on you there, Scotty. But yeah, a really good racetrack. Like you said, most popular for MotoGP. Really puts on a great race. And like I said, Formula One back in there, I'd love to see them back there. I reckon this racetrack is really good. Little bit of everything. You can see just on the track map, you got your tight turns. There's undulation in it as well, and really challenging no matter what car you drive around here.
I think that track map doesn't tell the true story when we talk about things down at turn 8 and turn 9 in particular. Two corners that double back on themselves. The apex, you look at turn 8 and you go, oh, that's a fairly early apex. I can pick that up and go out. No, it continues sweeping around. It's sort of that rally driver line of long 5 left closes is the way to talk about that one. Then turn Angel Nieto down at turn 9. The late apex, super late apex at turn 9. It's greater than 90 degrees in that turn configuration as well, SM. And like you said, test the drivers. There is just about everything on this track.
Yeah, I love that we don't race that little chicane through 11. That's probably more for the MotoGP stuff. But, that fast section through 11 and 12, that really sets you up for the hairpin at 13. And, it's like I said, it's a popular one for myself. I don't mind just, if I feel like just doing some lazy laps, this is probably the track that I choose just because it's got that little bit of everything.
All right, in terms of the race tonight, what we're going to be looking at, it's going to be another 250 kilometers. It's around that layout, but it's going to be very, very tricky to manage. Fuel, you're going to need to add around 89 to 95 litres split up across 2 stops, or could it actually be 3? For the first time in the series, we might be seeing drivers go 1 more stop than just the 2 compulsory stops, and that's without even factoring in a safety car. Fuel burn in the range of 3.5 to 3.6 litres a lap. You can do some fuel saving, and as that rubber burns off, well, less time on the loud pedal, less fuel burn, so that will come into consideration as well. This is probably the trickiest strategy race of the year, and we've still got Bathurst to consider.
Absolutely. I love that there's that little bit of unknown as far as whether someone's going to roll the dice and go for that 3-stopper too. That's really a curly one. Whether someone rolls the dice, stays out, and then you got someone that makes that gamble, takes a dive into the pit lane, and then chases down whoever the leader may be. That could be really exciting come the end of this race.
I think one of the key factors is it's going to be something that we'll probably talk about throughout the entirety of the race, but if you're someone like Griffin Gardner who's got pace but necessarily hasn't got the results under his belt, well, you can take more of a risk, because why not? You're not really looking at anything. But if you're chasing a championship, let's say Dylan Rudd, Rick Kuznetsov, those two are at the front end of the field at the moment, or perhaps the pack that's hungrily chasing them down, risks are something you want to be averse to. You do not want to take a risk. And the other side of the coin, Sam, man, could you imagine if we get a safety car with about 8 laps to go? Do you stay out? Do you take tyres?
Yeah, I'd love to see that. I guess everyone's of that mindset of like, what sort of advantage do you get with that fresh rubber compared to the people that are around you? I definitely would be rolling the dice, like you said, if you were trying to make up some points in this championship. But if you're up front, yeah, do you sort of stay with the leaders, do a little bit of follow the leader and stay safe and stick around with the guys that you know? I guess it's all going to play out over the next 50 odd laps, and it's really hard to pick at this stage, isn't it?
Yeah, really difficult. This is the race where everyone's just sort of like, oh, I'm not 100% sure. What we've actually done, ladies and gents, is we've actually polled the drivers tonight. We actually went out and did some research and talked to a few different bits and pieces to talk about what's potentially on the cards and how the drivers are feeling. A little bit new. I tell you what, in terms of things, tyre wear was extremely high. We got you a scale of 1 to 10. The average rating submitted by the drivers, they reckon it's going to be 8.8 on the tyre wear scale. We're not going to see that anywhere else on the season. Overtaking potential, 6.9%. Yeah, look, it's a little bit difficult, but it's up there. Certainly going to happen. And the confidence level, I like this stat, 5.6 out of 10. That's the average confidence level of the drivers.
I wonder if that comes down to the tyre wear factor, or whether that it's like you said, it's been on the service for a little while, but it's still relatively new compared to some of the circuits we go to. So I wonder if that plays a role in it. But man, when I saw those tyre wear statistics, I thought that there might have been a little bit of a typo there. But everyone in testing has been talking about tyre wear, and I can't wait to see how it all plays out tonight.
Hopefully you've got your best tyre whisperers on the pit wall for you tonight. They can get down there, whisper to them nicely, say, I'm going to look after you tonight, boys. You better look after me. That'll be the discussion. Well, the other thing to consider as well, our start straight here tonight, Sam, very, very short, and the grid is packed up. Those cars are a lot closer together. Normally you get a little bit of a spread between the rows. No. Everyone's right on each other, just about bumper to bumper.
Yeah, up the hill, a little climb up to the hill, and then you got a double right-hander, I guess. So, yeah, going to battle all these cars into that tight section. The blood's going to be pumping. Everyone's going to be pumped for a big race, and everyone gets those nervous start race and jitters. So, hopefully we don't see too much drama, but a beautiful racetrack, as we can see live pictures now coming to it. And that uphill into the tight right-hander should be juicy.
Oh, it's going to be exciting. And as well, it tightens on the exit. There's a little bit of curbing, a little bit of runoff area. That's the run down to turn number 1. It's an uphill run, and then you pitch you to the right-hand side. Look at the pit lane feed out as well. It's on the outside of turn 1. That'll be relevant later on in the night. Where do you feed back out? Because if you're looking for the undercut, you're going to need some clear air to make it happen. 3 stops on the card. Boy, that's got me excited. Wet at the lips. I can't believe that we're talking about that. We talk in terms of the supercar. Rubber's important. I never thought we'd say it's that important to have fresh tyres.
I'm eager to get to the end of the race just to see who does roll the dice with a 3-stopper. I really want someone to do it. I don't want everyone just to play safe. Obviously, there's going to be drivers out there that can look after their gear a little bit better and go the distance. But I'd really love to see someone chase down with a 3-stopper. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to track the journey. Well, one of the drivers that we're sort of keeping half an eye on is Dylan Rudd, but there's another one. There's a new award that's been added to the series with our thanks to our new partners at Original Gamer Gear. That's right, OG Gear, Original Gamer Gear. And it's Jared Filsell. Last time out, started, I believe he qualified at a 17th place. It was a very, very hard charge through the field. But Sandman, he's been overtaking cars. His race pace has been supreme.
Yeah, it was incredible to watch, wasn't it? We've seen, well, I guess we were talking with that broadcast. It's like, how far can he get? Can he get towards up the front? Can he get a win? Do you know what I mean? Like, just to see him make that charge through the field was very impressive. And, you know, we've spoken to him at times where he's led the race and he said, oh, look, it's been pretty boring. I was out there all by myself. There was none of that last time round because he was making the charge through the field and really earned his money's worth there.
Talk about his season, like in general as well, because think back to Sebring, right? He had that overhanging penalty from last year, and he drove his way through the front there. Then the chaos kicked off, but he'd already done the hard work. He's proved to me. I'm going to be honest with you, he's my guy to watch. I think if things go his way for the rest of the season, let's throw one bad round in the mix. I still think he wins the championship at this point.
I think everyone's entitled to at least one bad round. I don't think there's going to be any driver out there that's going to have a perfect season. So you can afford to have it. He's definitely got the talent. He's got the pace. He's got the speed. So we know he can do it. It's going to be an interesting charge to watch him come through the field.
Well, another point to consider. This is what the points table looks like. And we talked about the driver that's on screen in the background of that shot, the 94 machine, not even inside the top 10 yet. He's working on that, though, and it could be after tonight's race. Dylan Rudd now leads the way, and it's by 8 points. Rick Kuznetsov did manage to take 4 points out of him at the last race. It slipped out to 12 points, back under 10 points for that race lead. Tom Freer sits in third place at the moment. I don't think we've actually mentioned Tom Freer throughout the series and sits third in terms of the championship. Reasonable season thus far. Andrew Gilliam went for the mega undercut back at the Red Bull ring, and I've got him pegged as one of those drivers that's going to jump on that three-stop strategy.
The beauty that I love about this championship standings as it is right now is that I guess if we all sat down and wrote what our top 10 would be, there'd be a few drivers in there that wouldn't have made our list, let's be honest. So it's been a nice shake-up and yeah, really good to see some different names there and taking it to these, I guess, the top tier drivers that I guess we expect to always be up the front. Like look at Madison Down back in 7th place. We wouldn't have picked that a couple of rounds into this new season.
And Brady Myers as well. Myers actually finished ahead of Madison Down in that most recent race, and Down was actually ahead of him on points. He pegged it back, so he's taken some margin back out of that one as well. Brenton Hobson, I mean, when does Hovro ever appear on camera? But he's always there in terms of the championship points. He's in 10th spot at the moment, but there's some guys behind him coming for him. Problem is, I talked him up in the midweek, and I said that about Jordan Ross last round, so there's no way that Brenton Hobson has a good finish tonight.
You know he's going to hunt you down after this, don't you?
He's already aware. He's absolutely already aware, I tell you that much in terms of things. Yeah, but look, I mean, it's a beautiful little picturesque track. I don't think enough can really be said about the layout and where we are in terms of the world. It's so important. But on the second page of the championship standings, this is the one that we sort of need to keep half an eye on. Have a look at the margin between James Scott and Jared Filsell. Currently, they sit over 100 points off our championship lead, but there's only 4 points between them. 112 points from Filsell all the way up to Dylan Rudd. That'll be an important one that we'll keep talking about as the season continues to progress. Kurt Stenberg sits there in 13th. McNamara, Vell, Josh Anderson. He's just had a reasonable weekend out in terms of the Aussie racing cars. Always looks good driving those. I love seeing the shots that come in from Josh Anderson. Matty Bowler would be a little bit happy with things, and Marcelo Rivera for the other ERC entry as well. He had a very strong race at the Red Bull ring. Could tonight be another night for him, you think, Sam, man?
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, you know, we go to this racetrack and maybe there's people out here that, you know, we spoke about maybe a confidence level around here and it's not all that. So if he's got that confidence, a little bit of pace on his side, you know, he's definitely a charger. So that could work in his favour. And I guess looking at the championship, we start to think probably not too much at this stage, but we always start thinking about who's inside the top 20 because we think about that cut-off come at the end of the year is that the top 20 already advanced to next year's championship. Anyone outside that top 20 have to work their way in, exactly like we saw Jared Filsell go through at the start of the season. So that'll be starting to play on people's minds as they're outside the bubble, as we see Jake Burton there on 292 and Ethan Griggold. So these guys, although it's still early in the championship, I guess that's something that'll be playing in the back of their mind.
Yeah, I was actually talking to Jake Burton earlier today, and he just said, man, look, I've got no energy. My energy's waning, and that'll come, and it'll go, and it'll come again. And that's racing, really, isn't it? Some years you just sit there and you just go, man, why do I bother? I really feel down on myself. That's the hole he's sitting in. And he's won a race, right? Let's think about that in the back of your mind. That's a driver that's won a race. He's just not passionate. Car's not gelling for him. What he said to me actually is, I'm really looking forward to Gen 3, Scott. I want that car. I want to be able to show my stuff, because he is an engineer. He works on setups. He likes tinkering. He likes new things, new bars, new suspension things, and a new architecture that he can really go after. So, I mean, he's keen for Gen 3, and I think there's probably half that field that'll say, yeah, man, I'm chomping at the bit.
Oh, that'd be a huge announcement, if and when that comes. So, but, these guys, everyone's got life outside of sim racing. Unfortunately, that gets in the way, and like I said, some drivers being tired and just maybe not having as much time as they'd like to put into their sim racing. People have got families, they've got work life, they've got all sorts of things that take place. So we can understand that some people get a little bit burnt out, but he might start enjoying himself as the season goes on. And don't forget, there's always a chance to make up some good ground come endurance time.
Yeah, it's just practice though. That's the other side of things to sort of be aware of. It's just the time he just hasn't been able to invest, and that's the thing. He's still here, he's still turning his laps, he's still competitive, and he's got a lot of experience under his belt. Right, qualifying time, and I always tend to talk to a few of the TTR guys midweek. I talked to Madison Down about it. I've also talked to Bo Albert about it, and they're worried. Qualifying is definitely going to be a really, really important aspect of tonight's race. Madison Down said to me, I think there's going to be a few guys who fail to set a lap here tonight, to be honest with you, because it's tricky. There's so many different places around here, Sam, and you can pick up a 1X, and you've got to get it right. So a banker tonight, this might be the biggest banker of the season.
Yeah, wow, that's interesting. It's probably not what I expected around here to hear that, but if it's coming from the teams, then I guess that's something that's playing in the back of their mind. But we always say how crucial it is, regardless of what racetrack we go to. You've got to put a banker in, even if it's not anywhere near close as what you could be capable of, because if other people make mistakes, you're going to be automatically gifted a spot in front of them by just putting a half decent lap down.
Yeah, so it's going to be about preserving that tyre. I think there's going to be guys who will burn that tyre off before they get halfway through a flying lap. Well, there's drivers coming down to the final sector. It's time. It has been waited for. It has been thought about. And everything we've already talked about is now over and done with. Bo Albert gets a slide on out of the last corner. There's already heat in the rear tyres. First qualifying laps for round number 4 from Circuito Jerez. We're in Spain. We're in the Andalusian region. It's the home of Sherry. And who's going to be tasting Sherry at the end of the night? Well, now we'll get the opportunity to see who'll be tasting Sherry at the end of the qualifying period.
Oh, you can see a little bit of a wiggle just under brakes there as Bo got in there, but really interesting going into the first turn, how much real estate he's using on exit, just trying to be cheeky and get away with much racetrack as he can, just to open up those corners and carry that speed. But so far so good. Other than that little wiggle, it looks okay at this stage. He gets the car turned in, a little bit sideways on exit there, gets the power down, a nice run out of that corner.
I'm going to be honest with you though, Sam, and I don't think he made the apex though, coming onto that back straight down through turn 5. So it's a little bit of a mistake there. And now it's the run down to the hairpin. It's the run down to where we've seen Formula 1 cars dicing with each other. Those battles are always epic to watch. Now there's a lot of real estate through this section. You can run it wide. There's a lot of blue curbing. There's a lot of green curbing, but you've got to keep the car in play. This is the turn 8 corner for the first time tonight that we're going to see. And you can see it just goes on and on and on. Now I've got to get back to the left-hand side of the road. Now I've got to tip the car in. Then you get to the apex down here, and it's later than you think. He's wide there too.
I'm watching the wheel work on this. You can just see how much, look at that correction that he's putting in there, just trying to chase the rear, trying to be as aggressive as he can through those corners. He needs to bank a decent time, like we said, just to get that banker down. If he can do that, he'll be happy. But so far, so good. It might not be the fastest time of the night, but at least he's going to get something. He gets it into the last corner, nice and tight, gets the power down, doesn't lose too much on exit, and now it's just a run to the line.
What's the lap time going to be? We're seeing in practice about the best times in the business. 140.5s is what we're sort of looking around, that sort of a range. It's a 141.0 for Bo Albert, and that's about 6-7 tenths of a second off what he was able to set in practice. What's it going to be in terms of standings here tonight? Well, Gilliam comes through and sets a flyer very, very early on. 40.649. He's going to be very quick, but have a look at Brady Myers. No pace in that car. A 41.330 throws him deeper in the field. Great goal to the top. Matches Gilliam's time to the 1,000th. We've got to go to the 10,000th to separate them at the top of the tower. And we are one lap into this one, and already there's tyres. Oh, Phil Sell's there, and James Scott's going to go with him.
Phil still had to go and ruin a good story for you, didn't you? Just had to go and ruin it for you. But how good's that? It just shows you how close it is just on this opening lap. But impressive from Phil Sell to have that little bit of a margin over his teammate, James Scott. But just over a tenth there, so they'd be pretty happy with that first opening banker.
Yep, it's time though. You got to get back in. You got to get into that pit lane. I'm seeing there's a couple of drivers who have failed to set laps already in terms of the session, and that'll be quite critical. You know, just making sure that you get out there, you put times in and amongst it. There's still guys in the final sectors that are coming to it. O'Reilly's in pit lane. Brian Borg, Josh Anderson, Hayden Veld, number of drivers. Kurt Stenberg now rolling out of pit lane. So there's a few drivers who failed to set it. They picked up that incident point early on in the lap, and now they're coming back to the pit lane. And I tell you what, this pit lane is going to get busy in a few moments because it's going to have a horde of V8s on its way down here. Jacob O'Reilly now rolls to the end of pit lane. And these guys, the other side of the coin here, they're looking for that free track. So they definitely want to get out there and get rolling because they're not with the pack now. And we've seen that. That's been such a big talking point in terms of qualifying. It's so difficult to get it done in the pack.
Something I was expecting, they're probably a little bit faster around here for their opening lap than I expected, because we were talking about tyre wear and how crucial it is. You really want to look after that rubber for that one lap in qualifying. So they're trundling around at a decent pace, so I expected them to be a lot slower. So that's not a bad thing. It's just that we're not going to have people tripping over each other. And like you said, these guys just finding themselves just a nice little bit of real estate, not having to worry about anyone else. But I guess the tricky bit is when everyone starts to head back to pit lane and starts coming out for their out lap, they're going to be on their hot lap.
I'm just having a quick look through. I think there's 7 or 8. Madison Down didn't set a lap in that first run through. I reckon we got about 9-10 cars who actually haven't set themselves a qualifying lap in that first run. And that's a big one for Madison Down. Now, of course, experience is going to set in. And he's going to be able to sit down and go, yep, I know exactly where I am. It's okay. I trust myself, I back my skills, I back my ability, and that's where experience takes over, isn't it, Sam, man?
Yeah, and you touched on it before we started this, how many people were worried about, actually even just banking a lap. So when you see the likes of Madison Down just having those little bit of dramas, then, it shows just how easy it is. But, he won't be too worried at this stage. Obviously, it's not ideal, but 13 minutes on the clock. He's about to start his hot lap. So I think as long as he gets one under his belt here, he will be quite relieved, head back to pit lane, new set of rubber and go again.
I was looking at some comments from Bo Albert as well. He said, off tracks, mate, they're going to be extremely difficult to manage across the race, well, let alone qualifying. Got that banker now. It was a reasonable banker. Madison Down's going to be the next driver to set the lap. Defending champion from 2023. Didn't go out with the pack in terms of qualifying. On the run down to turn number 1. What's the car attitude? What's the balance like? We talked to him a number of times across the season. He said, Phillip Island's our base set. And I've got to be honest, that's probably the right set to go for this track. That's a very, very good starting point.
You can already see a little bit of distracting things. You can see what Madison's got in front of him. There's already a car here on their out lap. Are they going to get out of the way? Are they going to... Oh. So even that, the driver got out of the way, but it's still a distraction for a driver that's on a hot lap, because you're second guessing what they're going to do. You're praying that they're going to get out of the way, but it can be a little bit costly even though they do get out of the way. Look at the wiggle on exit there, and he's got more traffic ahead of him as well.
Yeah, and they've realised it, and they've realised it very early. It'll be Andre Yusuf's the next car on track now. It'll be his teammate, Brady Myers. He'll have to cut his way through. And then about 15 seconds down the road, it's going to be Brady Baldwin, the start of the rear end of that pack. He's going to hit him. There's no way he gets to the tail end of this lap and doesn't hit this lap worth of traffic. Myers now he clears as he cuts his way through. The defending champion yet to set a lap in terms of qualifying. This will be important. There's no way. Did you see the tail end of that train just streaking away out of that shot? He's coming on them.
Yeah, and that's the scary bit. We touched on it just before, isn't it? Is when you're on a hot lap and everyone else is just starting to
there they are.
Start theirs. Look at this. Oh. Think we
just
get
watch.
away with it?
You bite your fingernails, you watch, and you hope, no, there's no way. There's no way. No, he's got a ball. Oh!
No, come on. No, they've got to do better than that. They really should be keeping an eye on their rearview mirror to see that there's cars coming on them. There's no excuse for that. So a little bit ugly there. It's going to cost him a little bit, but hopefully he can just get a banker down for Madison.
Well, 48.93 is not a bad banker. That will do. That's actually got him inside the top 10. So you can say he's been balked, you can say he's lost time, but that's still a top 10 lap. Now, that's his first lap compared to everyone else's, and now Forza El Nabi's right on his gearbox. He's got to find somewhere to get out of the way, but at the same time, he's also got to try and make sure he gets back to the lane in reasonable order. El Nabi sits outside. He's in 20th as it currently stands. Remember, he was quick all the way back at Sebring. He had an opportunity to put himself forward, and he'll be looking for a little bit of clear area. He'll get a toe, but he understeered all the way out. I reckon El Nabi's just cancelled his own lap. Where's O'Reilly? I think that's the cover. No, it's Kuznetsov we're looking on board at the moment, the driver that sits second in the championship. And he's having a crack. He's absolutely having a crack here, Sam, man. The car is the attitude of it. He's putting everything he's possibly got in. And now I think he'll pick up an off track. So that might have bought the lap right there. It'll be right on the limits. It'll be teammate Teo Serrano that'll be the next car through. And I believe Brian Borg's coming to the end of a warm-up lap as well. So he'll get an opportunity just up ahead of these guys. And yep, Kuznetsov bails out of the lap.
Yeah, best thing you can do if the lap's already been thrown away, just get back and dart in. We're under 10 minutes now for this session all ready to go. So you really have to be committed to get down a decent time or fire back to the pit lane and go for new rubber.
Well, the drivers that are filing through that final corner, Andrew Gilliam, I think, has just come to the line. His first lap was reasonably good. I think Phil Sell's just gone through. So they're all going to punch in new laps. And I think Phil Sell actually improved on that lap as well. So a little bit more time. No, he's close to it. He was 0.08 of a second slower. So not much there in terms of things, although he's got a purple in the middle sector as it currently stands. So very, very tight. James Scott hasn't improved. And I tell you what, Sam, man, track temp at the moment, you're going to like this if you're a holiday viewer over in Spain, but you're not going to like it if you're a race car driver. 56 degrees on track. It is scorching. Someone break out the bacon and eggs.
Yeah, thank you very much for being in the commentary box and not have to fight these beasts around this racetrack. So that's going to come into play when this race starts. That's crazy. So, yeah, definitely. We've already been talking about the tyre wear and now having to deal with 56-degree track temperature.
Yeah, and tell you what, have a look at the leaderboard, by the way, Sam, man. 1, 2, 3, Phil Sell, Scott, Rudd. So that's your Speed Cafe, Ryko, Lob, Z Sports drivers, all up at the top end of town. Marcelo Rivera sits fourth and Andrew Gilliam, and then it just gets interesting. Greek Gold, Griffin Gardner. I said keep an eye on Griffin Gardner as well throughout the piece, but everyone's got their second laps in now, and I tell you what, we've only got 8 minutes and 20 seconds. I don't think we're going to get a fourth run tonight. I think it's going to be 3.
Yeah, I guess it depends on whether someone aborts, whether they think their lap's good enough and they decide, you know what, I'm just going to cut the lap early, cut my losses and get back in. So, yeah, it's the whole strategic thing, isn't it? It's how you go about getting that back here. You can see these guys all heading to pit lane, going in for a new set of Dunlops. So, yeah, it's crucial about getting that time down and then seeing what you've got. And if your lap is just starting to fall away or not good enough to improve on what you've got, just cut your losses, head back to the lane. Oh, one of the TTR cars absolutely sideways coming into the pit lane. Didn't make contact, thankfully, but boy, oh boy, that was a close call.
Yep, yeah, and we're going to be seeing that throughout the journey as well. Remember, we talked about pit lane entry lines. You touch that line, it's 40 seconds added to your pit stop, so
that's huge.
It's hefty. It's hefty, but it's yeah, it's going to be an interesting one in terms of things, and we'll be keeping an eye on that. This race is going to be one of the most tricky to manage that we're going to see throughout the season. Talk about the 707 as it currently stands as well. I mean, reasonable start at things for Tom Freya, third in the championship, and yet he's barely appeared on screen. Well, here's his opportunity. This is a warm-up lap for him, so this isn't a flyer. And this is putting himself in position. It looks like he's going just a little bit harder on this out lap. I reckon he's going, I want to have 2 cracks at this lap. So this is about setting it up to make sure he's got enough time on that second attempt.
Yeah. Just trying to work out what he's doing. Thankfully, he's got some real estate. It was interesting to see some of those TTR cars were actually off on the gravel getting out of the way. But thankfully, they got out of the way. He's cruising around getting ready to start this lap. 6.5 minutes to go. This is when the pressure starts to build. If you haven't done a good job yet, you're running out of time, and the stopwatch is not your best friend at the moment. So it's all about putting it all together and doing something good at the right end of town.
I tell you what, I just went back and had a look at that. You mentioned there was a couple of TCR cars off. There was also Forza El Nabi. There was also a couple Synergy Sim Racing cars. There was Vermilion cars all in there. And it was Bo Albert who got compromised. He arrived at speed on his flyer. And remember, qualifying's been a little bit of a difficult thing for Bo Albert, a name who's got finishes at high-level events over a number of years in a number of different categories, and that's the key. He's got the talent. He knows he's got the ability to be here. He said, I've just got to adjust to this car. He's struggling with it, and the qualifying series wasn't his best work, but he made the main game, and he's still struggling. So, you know, challenge yourself against the best of the best in a new rig, in a new machine, and really challenge yourself to improve as a driver. He's struggling at the moment.
As much as we love these cars, they are not the best cars to drive in the world. I know anyone who's spent time on the iRacing service, you know, there's plenty of other cars out there that handle absolutely brilliant, but you've really got your work cut out for you when you get in a supercar. So regardless of how many races you do around the world, you've really got to get yourself comfortable with these cars because they move it around. They're not the most friendly cars to drive, but it is rewarding when you hook them up. Oh, look at that amount of movement there he's got in the steering wheel. And then he's got a little bit of traffic up here ahead. So all these drivers have got their work cut out for them when they jump in these beasts, when they get out of different vehicles, you know, all around throughout the series.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing. Michael Whiting steps aside for Tom Freire to give him an access channel to the final sectors of the lap. What's he going to be capable of doing in the dying stages of this session? And he's really got the thing out sideways, trying to rag it, trying to have a go at things. What's available to Tom Freire? Doesn't get great driver. I don't know, the line looks scratchy at the last corner. And now he's going to try and have a run to the start finish line. Is it going to be an improvement for Tom Freire? A 1:41.070 is an improvement. It's a new fastest lap. It's 21st though for Tom Freire. So he's got to find something. But then again, maybe you don't extract the raw pace out of that car. Maybe it's better in race trim.
Yeah, I think a lot of these teams should be hoping that, I guess, depending on how qualifying's going. You know, obviously the races are won in qualifying, but it just makes your job easier come race night. So if you've got a race car, I think that's what all these teams ideally want. You want a good qualifying car as well, but we know the journey around here is over 50-odd laps, so you've really got to have a decent race car under you.
Yeah, and he is putting all power to the floor to try and get this car back. There just about might be time for one more qualifying effort for Tom Freire, but he's going to have to go pretty hard in terms of getting out of the pits, by the way. Just got an update from race control, and we're looking at Bo Alberts being impeded on his qualifying lap. No further investigation on that one. They're not going to touch that one as it currently stands. So what's the lap look like now for Bo Albert? I believe this will be the start of another flyer for the ERT driver. And off out of turn number one. And then it's this tough and tricky turn two. You want to get the car rotated so you can get on the power and get to the left-hand side. But setting the car nicely and modulating that throttle pedal when you've got so much wheel on the thing, Sam, man, that is a challenge.
One thing, just looking at Bo's lap too, the amount of real estate he's using, and that's obviously something you work out during testing when you're leading up to these races, is how much can I get away with being over the other side of the white line? You see every driver like everything. So we can see that Rick Knesov, he's now up to 9th place. So a good move up through the positions there for Rick, but good to see that you know, everyone's utilising as much racetrack, and you know, we talk about how crucial it is not to get those off-track penalties, because that can be really a bite in the backside, especially this end to the end of the qualifying.
Well, we've got 2 3/4 minutes left to go. So everyone rolling out of pit lane right now has definitely got enough time for a lap. And there's drivers you look towards the tail end of the field to start to have a look at. Remember, Thomas Freeman didn't set a qualifying lap back at the Red Bull Ring. Still yet to set a qualifying lap in this session. Brian Borg not had a great season in terms of qualifying. Those are the 2 drivers as it currently stands that haven't set a lap time right now. But they've got time. They've got an opportunity. Still in the water. The final qualifying time thus far set by Andre Yusuf. Geez, had a rough go of things. I tell you what, Kurt Stenberg down in 33rd spot as well. That's a long way down from where he'd like to be.
Yeah, I don't imagine he would have done anything close to an impressive time being that far back, whether he's had his dramas. So we can see Bo's done a 41.0 on that lap. Still in 20th place at the moment.
Yeah, good enough for 20th, but that'll be his session done. There's no opportunity. I tell you, his 2 laps, get this, he's done 2 laps, and they're both 1:41.064s. How's that for consistency?
Oh, you're joking. Yeah,
no, I'm not.
Fastest lap and last lap, wow.
And I tell you, even though it's his most recent lap, it was also, he's done, I've got 9 times showing up for him that he's crossed the start-finish line in this session. He's done his fastest lap on lap 2 and lap 9.
Well, Mr. Consistency, don't take that away from him. How good's that?
I wish I had talent of that level. That's never going to happen. So, anyway,
that's why I've got a microphone in front of me and not a steering wheel.
Yeah, we're the 2 fools sitting in the back of the commentary box drinking the local sherry.
That's it.
in terms of things, still all the way are the Lobs Speed Cafe drivers, 1 and 2, and 3 as it currently stands. I'm really, really intrigued, though. Brenton Hobson's actually having one of his best qualifying performances of the season. Sits 13th on the road, and he's going to have enough time for one more shot as well here. And now the timing, I think there's going to be a few drivers who are done for the day. Griffin Gardner's not back out to try and set another lap time. He sits inside the top 10. Zach Rattray-White's on his way around the circuit as well. Greek Galt sits inside the top 10. And Brady Myers is the current last spot. And there's going to be a lot more time coming this way. So one final roll of the dice, 20 seconds left on the timer, which means those drivers on screen are either on a lap or their qualifying is done.
This was always a nervous time for me. I was obviously never a very good driver, but when you know that you're really coming down to this last lap, you've got no more time in the session, and this can sort of make or break your night. This is when I got the most nervous. It was never the first lap. It was always towards the end, the last laps, when I'm trying to make it count. So, and that's what these guys are doing. They know the checkered flag's out, so what they've got to do now is just absolutely get what they can, the best out of their car, and see if they can just bump up just a couple of spots just to make your night just that little bit easier.
It was really interesting and tight, actually. I think James Scott might have his session be done with. He was very, very tight on the line when the checkered flag was thrown. He'll be the last driver that'll be available to set up one more lap. He's got his 2 teammates on the track ahead of him. I'm counting at least about 15 drivers who are out on track as it currently stands. The first of those is going to come to the line with Michael Whiting. No, his session's over. He's into the pit lane. In behind him will be Ian Ford's session, also over as they both come to the pit lane. Sean McNamara is the next car on track, and he is flying. He is coming to the final corner. And that lap is gone as well, although he might just be auditioning for Drift Stars Australia. Who knows?
TTR car back off in the gravel trap as well, back in that last corner, so that's obviously not great. One of the Mustangs, so... But you see, everyone just trying their best, get the grip and the traction out of that last corner. Can Marcelo improve? No, he'll stay 4th.
Yeah. That's still a good qualifying performance, and that's his best of the season as well. Greek Galt just in behind him. He actually improved on his final lap. Hobson didn't improve. They're now starting to come thick and fast at the back end of things. Temperature's not changed whatsoever, so this all now comes down to driver talent. Who's got the speed that's at the tail end of the chain? Your pole position driver, Jared Filsell. Is he going to improve on his final lap as he runs out of the last corner? Dylan Rudd's there as well. And where's Tom Freer come from? He's now slotted himself inside the top 10. So that's a phenomenal lap for Tom Freer, dying in the late stages of the piece. Filsell will not improve. Scott will not improve. And I think that's it. That's it. Yep. The last drivers have now crossed the start-finish line. Everyone's in the books. And your starting grid, your pole position driver, well, they've been supreme in terms of their one-lap pace thus far this season. And it's going to be another pole position for a Speed Cafe Lobs Esports car. They're in on the action once again, Sandman. And that pace over one lap and a race has been brilliant this season. And finally, Filsell puts another qualifying performance together.
Yeah, we shouldn't be too surprised, should he? So it's a great job there for Jared, obviously starting from the best possible position. Had good pace, and yeah, those cars look dangerous, don't they? All of them from the Lobs team. So they're going to be a force to be reckoned with tonight. So really going to be interesting. What have we got? 57 laps around here. So, you know, they'll have the pressure from everyone else, but have they got enough just to start pulling away from the field? I guess time will tell.
Yeah, and how is the strategy? Sometimes it's very, very difficult. You don't want to lead the way because you're the first guy to go past the pit lane when everyone else piles in. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to jump into our starting grid. It's going to be Jared Filsell from James Scott makes up the Lobs Esports crew front row. 1/10 of a second, Filsell out qualifies teammate James Scott this time by. We'll see who'll have it when they get down to turn number 1. On row number 2, it's going to be Dylan Rudd and Marcelo Rivera. They were not all that far back from James Scott either, and it's going to be an incredibly close qualifying performance for both of those guys as well. In terms of things as we jump through the field, and it's going to be the times there 1.5 tenths apart. That's very, very close in terms of qualifying performance. For Rivera was very, very strong back at Red Bull Ring as well, so that's something to keep in the back of your mind. Andrew Gilliam from Ethan Greek Galt, 5th and 6th, and the first of the Vermilion cars. Could Andrew Gilliam be the first driver that throws caution to the wind and says, I'm going to make it a 3-stop race? We'll keep an eye on that one. Madison Down is on the next row of the grid, your championship defending driver, off alongside of Zach Rattray-White, who puts in his best qualifying performance of the season. First time we've seen him inside the top 10. Could he step out the other way inside that top 10 as well? 9th and 10th, Tom Freer and Griffin Gardner. We said Freer was feeling feeling quick, and he looked it as well. Griffin Gardner will line off alongside of him inside the top 10. Outside to 11th and 12th will be Rick Kuznetsov. He's a long way behind Dylan Rudd. He'll have work to do off alongside of Brady Myers. Jacob O'Reilly and Josh Anderson are going to be the next drivers as well. And then in behind them will be Brenton Hobson off alongside of Jake Maloney for your 15th and 16th on the grid. One row further back, and we're going to move to Jordan Ross and Dylan O'Shea in the Synergy Sim Racing and 9.5 machines off alongside of each other. And then final drivers inside the top 20. It was a championship leader up until the end of last round. Robbie Gibbs off alongside of Scott Gamble. First driver that's going to be just outside of the top 20 will be Bo Albert. Off alongside of him will be Adam Briggs. It'll be interesting to see how those two fare as the night progresses. Blake Warboys will be off alongside of Forza El Nabi in terms of the WKP Sim Sports entry, off alongside the Synergy Sim Racing drama. Sean McNamara, boss man over at 9.5, qualifies in 25th position off alongside of Ian Ford, who's not been feeling incredibly comfortable in that car of late. Matthew Bowler and Kurt Stenberg, 27th and 28th. Then we'll throw it back to 29th and 30th will be Jake Burton and Brady Baldwin. Tayo Sorono and Hayden Feld, 31st and 32nd. Damien Johnson, Michael Whiting, 33rd, 34th. 35th is going to be Andre Youssef, and ahead of the drivers who failed to set a qualifying time, which will be Thomas Freeman and Brian Borg. And now we're going to throw it across to our grid walk time. It's going to be time to talk to the driver from pole position. Sandman, I believe you've got Jared Filsell on standby.
Jared, well done, mate. Congratulations. It's always impressive when you start from the front of the grid. How was qualifying? Obviously, everything went pretty well. You'd be pretty happy with the results so far.
Yeah, so pretty happy with that lap time. The track temp kept getting hotter and hotter, so it would have been nice to have matched my practice time. But yeah, it's unfortunate that no one really went quicker in that session because the track was just getting worse and worse. But no, it was a nice clean lap, nice banker. Had a little bit of a gap over my teammates, but it's cool to lock out the front 3 rows with the Speed Cafe vehicles.
That was my next question. It's not too shabby having all teammates around you. That's it's obviously been a good lead up coming into this round.
Yeah, it's been not too bad. I haven't done bulk of the work. I won't take credit for the setup. We've all contributed somewhat evenly, all with a bunch of different ideas and whatnot, but we've landed on something that we think is not too bad, but we'll wait and see how it goes in the race.
And was this a bogey racetrack on the calendar? Are you looking forward to this one? Your thoughts coming into this round?
No, not really. New track, something different. I like it. Yeah, just like the qualifying series, there's some new tracks that we've not done anything in with these cars, so it always presents a bit of motivation to learn the thing and try and maximise the package. So no, it's good. I like it.
All the best, mate. Have a good, clean run. Stay out of trouble, and mate, enjoy the race. Hopefully, we'll talk to you at the end of the night.
Thank you.
Cheers. And Scotty, I believe you've gone over and seen his teammate who's parked right next to him, and James Scott.
Yeah, I was actually hoping Jared Filsell might hang around for that one, because this is where you get the teammates to rough each other up. James Scott, that guy that's across from you on the front row, he's got no talent, right? He's no good.
I don't know about that. Yeah, no, he's been really fast all week, so yeah. You're going to have to put in a good performance tonight to be able to hang with him. But yeah, we'll see what we can do.
Mate, new weather update means the track temperatures have lifted quite a high. Like, I'm looking at 55 degrees in terms of that track temp at the moment. It'd be nice to be over in Spain in the middle of the tail end of spring at the moment, leading into summer. But she's a baking track. You've got to look after that rubber tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to be a race of, looking after the tyres. The car feels pretty good. So hopefully that can help us along the way, but these cars are pretty tough on rubber, and this is a notoriously hard track on the tyres as well, so just trying to be smooth and trying to keep as much rubber as we can will be pretty important to a good result.
Mate, target tonight, is it the win? Is it just slot in, let's just get points, let's survive first corner and then talk about things?
Yeah, pretty much. Turn 2, obviously there's only sort of ever been one really competitive V8 race around this track before, but turn 2 is always a bit of a hot spot, so sort of get through there, see where we are. It's really easy to get a bad start with the ratio that you run around here, so yeah, just getting off the line, getting through the first few corners, settling to a rhythm. It's good to have a few teammates around as well. Obviously, they're not going to do anything stupid or anything like that, so it makes it just a little bit easier, but just see where we are after the first sort of lap.
Mate, thanks for the chat. Good luck. Get the head down and go get them. And I think Sandman's sitting alongside of the third car we're going to be chatting to tonight. It's the TCR driver of Jake Maloney.
Yes, Jake, probably a little bit further down the grid than you would have liked, just outside the top 15. I guess quality obviously didn't go to plan, but how are you gonna attack tonight's race?
Yeah, probably. I mean, pretty evident that TTR doesn't really have the pace here tonight. I mean, Matt probably did the best of us, and he's only 7th, so I think because there's going to be a lot of tyre wear, hopefully, and it's a hard track, I think we can strategise our way forward a little bit in the race, hopefully, and hopefully, yeah, move up in towards that 10.
We've been talking about tyre wear. Is that something that sort of has been playing on your mind for this one? Obviously, we're looking at track temperatures through quali. That was obviously getting a little high too. So is that a bit of a concern, or you sort of look forward to maybe rolling the dice with a little bit of strategy on that part?
I don't think it's a concern. I think I'm probably looking forward to it. I don't know how it's going to affect us. I haven't really done more than one lap in a row. So we'll see how it goes in the race, but I think, yeah, it'll be important to look after the tyres.
Well, that black Mustang looks pretty sharp in TTR colours. All the best, Jake. Go get them, and fingers crossed we're having a chat to you at the end of the night.
Cheers, Simon.
There you go, Scotty. Jake's ready. He's a little bit further down the grid than he'd like, but he's ready. And, these guys have got 57 laps in front of them now.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity on the table, I think, Sandman, in terms of things. We're a bit over 2 minutes from race start now, but if you have a look and you have a think about it, you split that race up, someone's going to have a go. Particularly if you're towards the back end of the field and you've not got a lot on the table, but field spread, we're going to be talking about that minute and 40-second lap. It's going to be a 30-ish second trundle down the pit lane plus your pit stop time. It's not easy. You've got to get the car pulled up as well. And when you're thinking about strategy, I got to go for it. Oh, I'm an old rubber. Trying to get that thing pulled up on the way.
Rubber. No doubt people will roll the dice. I hope so, because I really want to see how that plays out.
I do. Guaranteed, someone will try it, and it's going to be someone with not a lot to lose. So, again, Griffin Gardner sits 10th. I've got money on him. He'll be one of the drivers to try it. Rattray White's in 8th. That's his best qualifying performance of the season. He's got an opportunity here, but then you're inside the top 10, you go, that's too much of a risk. I'm just going to do the bog standard thing. I'm just going to look after my car, look after my rubber. So who are you looking at? Maybe a little bit deeper in the field. Hobson, probably not, likes to run a very, very safe strategy. Dylan O'Shea's another aggressive driver, Sandman.
Yeah, there's plenty of names. You can reel off so many through there, just a little bit further through down the field. But I guess it all comes down to how the car is, how they've got away at the start, and if we've got any safety cars. We touched on a little bit of that, but that could play a big part in it too.
Yeah, and if you're out of position, if you take that pit stop and you take the extra stop and you're ahead of where you were when that safety car comes out, bonza. You got to win. Everyone's coming back down pit lane anyway. If you pit after that, just before that safety car comes out, you got no track position. No, I've called it at the wrong time. Such is the trickiness of strategy. Such is the difficulties of being an engineer. Such is the difficulties of being a racing driver. Now we're on to the next difficulty. The revs from Circuito to Jerez. Angel Nieto. This is the moto layout. It's a track in Spain. It's the Andalusia region. Sherry is the drink that's been made here for a long, long time. It was shipped to England. It's celebrated the world over. Who is going to be raising a glass tonight? At the tail end, the Speed Cafe crew, they're on pole position through 3rd. Who's going to take a challenge to them? Who's got race pace? It's time to find out. Green flags in the air. The initial start run's gone backwards. Run's gone nowhere. Here comes Andrew Gilliam. Marcelo Rivera's got a strong start. All of a sudden, Phil Sell off a pole position. Back foot. Gilliam's around the outside. Are you kidding me? That was not in the playbook.
Yeah, 2 out of the 3 Lobs cars just didn't quite get away. Phil Sell he still managed to hold on to 3rd place, which you'd be happy about. Not ideal, but yeah, it was a little bit of a different story. See, Madison's down up to 6th, so he's battling with Zach, so he's down to 7th now. So it's all started playing out. Looks like everyone's got through the first couple of corners nice and clean. But man, that was an interesting start for the Lobs cars.
Yeah, it's about getting the power down, and sometimes you get a little bit excited. You've ticked all those boxes. Dylan Rudd has got 2 Queensland state titles to his name in terms of go-karting. He's in the lead of the championship, and he's under a little bit of pressure. He smokes those tyres on the launch. He's gone from 30, sits 8. That's going to be a story that develops. Have a look at them as they get down to turn 6 for the first time. 2 wide, deep in the back. They're 3 wide. I thought I saw Whiting's nose disappearing down the middle of that one. That was an interesting place to go in the fishy entry, and now they'll all try and single file it back out and settle? Who's looking after Alba early? Who's going for quick gains? And who's trying to put one step further forward? Well, I tell you what, Rivera's had a phenomenal opening lap, and he is right on the rear bumper of James Scott. That'll be one that'll be interesting to watch. Warboys has had an interesting start in the middle of the pack, and this is what they look like. Running down to the sweepers. They're long, loaded corners here. It's so easy to pick up an off track on the entry, so easy to pick one up on the exit. Oh, whew. If you had a moment, now you're finally down here to the tail end. And have a look at Rattray White. There was an opportunity for him here tonight, and he's had a phenomenal qualifying effort, not so race start.
Yeah, he was battling not long ago with Madison down, so he's dropped a couple of positions there, but it's the first lap. Don't worry, just calm down. All these drivers just need to settle down, get into a rhythm. There's already a car in the pit lane. Bo Albert, he's trundling down pit lane.
Oh, what's going on there? Because the pit lane's not open yet. So there's what we're hearing is that there's an iRacing penalty being issued, and my first thought that jumps to mind is there's two options. There's a slowdown penalty. You can get them around this track. It is possible. It's difficult to do, but it is possible. The other one is jump start, and that one might be the key.
Wow. Well, you know, as terrible as it is to get a penalty, the best time to do it is on that first lap, because if you suck up, get your penalty over and done with, you never know how the race is going to play out with safety cars. So he can put that behind him now, eyes down, eyes forward, and just start to push on and try and see how the rest of the night plays out.
Yeah, and Rick Kuznetsov's just sent it down the inside of teammate Zach Rattray White. Scott Gamble's just had an incident on the current lap as well. So it's coming in thick and fast. And when I talked to Madison Down throughout the week, he said, yeah, look, this will be a difficult one. I think the stewards are going to be busy tonight. And the reason why? Corner entries. You've got to be wide on entry to balance and set the car up in the mid-corner. It invites a dive bomb. It invites aggression. So you've got to be careful who you do it around.
Yeah, look at an aggression too. Marcelo looks like he's got his work cut out for him. Jared Filsell was harassing the back of his car there. So you can see that Jared's pretty keen to make up those spots that he lost just at the start of this race, really applying that pressure. And we talk about tyre wear, and it's the first couple of laps, how aggressive you go with this rubber. If you try and look after it, it's going to be kinder to you as the race goes on. But if you go hard at the start, it really could punish you.
Yeah, and now have a look deeper in the field as well. Dylan Rudd is starting to crawl all over the rear bumper of Madison Down. So it's championship leader versus the guy trying to defend his title this year. It's not gone well thus far for Madison Down. But this race, a few spots on the opening couple laps, and now Dylan Rudd, something to prove to the world. Took a risk. An opportunity came along at the start of the year to go and join the Speed Cafe Lobs Esports crew. He had an opportunity in that one, and he said, look, an opportunity to work with James Scott and Jared Filsell, cannot pass that up. He was disappointed leaving and parting ways with the 9-5 Sim Sports crew, but look what it's achieved for him, Sam, man.
Yeah, I'm keen to see how this plays out, actually, because we've already heard from the TTR crew that, you know, their setup and everything for tonight probably isn't as good as what they'd hoped. So with Madison Down just feeling that little bit of pressure, we've already seen that Dylan Rudd's got some pace on his side. So does Madison try and hold him off for the next few laps, or does he sort of just give him a little bit of breathing space and follow him out? But obviously the racer in Madison Down wants to stay in front and keep that position. But there's a lot to learn, I guess, and probably doesn't want to put too much pressure on that car as far as giving up some of that tyre grip as well.
Well, the other thing is, he's in clear air as Madison Down at the moment, so he's not got straight line speed, but he did close up a little bit to Ethan Greek-Gold in the sector they're currently in, where that front splitter starts to do a lot of the working job. Now he'll tip it in. God, that corner is so difficult. You've got to touch the green curbs on the inside, a little bit of sausage curb. They both bounce over it. Deeper in the pack, though, it's going to be Jacob O'Reilly. He's got a car to his inside. Matthew Bowler on the move, looking to try and move his way up, and has managed to do that one. So Evolution Racing Team driver Matty Bowler manages to grab a spot away from Jacob O'Reilly, and this is just outside our 20. Could we be looking at this group of drivers to be on the bubble in a couple of rounds' time? This could be important when it comes end of season.
One thing I liked about that battle is everyone just gave each other just that little bit of elbow room too. So just as that's happened too, looks like Filsell now has moved into second place, so he's got that job done on Marcelo. So he's pretty keen to start pushing on. We saw him pressure not long ago on the back of Marcelo, and now he'd be keen to try and pull away. But the pace in these Lobs cars is definitely something that's going to be a contender for tonight.
And the first original Game of Gear replay of the night. Boy, they got their work out of that one back at the Red Bull Ring. It'll be how Filsell goes the next P2 away. It's the rundown of the final corner. He's up alongside. Rivera just goes, yeah, there's no point fighting that one too much. That is no grip on the outside of that last corner.
And how stable that thing was under brakes with Phil. So he just dove it in there, and the car was really settled. As soon as he got on the brakes, it got in, turned in nice and clean, and he was able to get the job done. So, we can tell that these cars, someone was going to have a little bit of a look there, but always good to keep the drivers thinking when you get the job done. But, we've seen how good these cars have been in practice and quali, so it'll be interesting to see if they just start to look after their equipment or if he's keen to chase down his teammate in James Scott there.
How good's the pace from Andrew Gilliam? Like, we saw it last season as well. One race is back at Detroit Belle Isle. He's in there. He's been putting his name into the equation. Another driver that's had a team change this year. There's been a lot of changes in and around Gilliam, and that sort of says to me, I said a couple of rounds ago, he's got to do something with it. He's got to make sure that this works, or else it'll all be for naught. You start to question, was that the right decision? It's working. Proof's in the pudding.
Yeah, it's always tricky going to a new team. There's different things to think about. People, you've got different teammates and all the rest of it. Everyone's got different ways they go about racing and setup. So it's always a bit of a transition sometimes going to a new team. But seems like he's doing quite well at this stage.
How about this battle pack? This one is epic. It sort of covers anywhere from about 11th to the end of the field. 36th is the last car that's in this chain. They're all just necked up to each other. Sort of starts deeper in the field. I tell you what, Dylan O'Shea's actually alongside of Jake Maloney as they come out of turn 1. So that'll be a battle that's worth keeping an eye on as they head down to turn 2. He got down the inside to Dylan O'Shea. Look at the wiggle. Look at the attitude from Jake Maloney. And he manages to get that spot back and just barely hang on to it, and that's allowed Blake Warboys. Warboys was only just in front of these guys as they come off for turn 1, and now he's sort of gapped them, so they're fighting, they're squabbling. O'Shea gets the feeling that he's just a little bit faster at this point in time, and Maloney wasn't confident in the setup, wasn't confident now they were coming into this race. It's tough, it's technical, it's tricky, it asks a lot of things as a driver, and Dylan O'Shea now asks the question of Jake Maloney.
Yeah, thought he was going to take another dive there. It's always frustrating as a driver, isn't it? When you feel like you've got that pace and you just can't get the job done for the cars in front of you.
Well, there's been a change for position, and Dylan Rudd's managed to make his way past Matterson down, and it was the other way round last time out. Dylan Rudd was ailing at the back end of the race, just couldn't keep the tyres under it in the final stint from the Red Bull ring. This time, the shoes on the other foot. Maybe Matterson Down's just looking after the thing just a little bit more. Man, I can't match him at this phase of the season. I'm just going to look after it. That experienced head starts to come into things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I touched on whether, we didn't get to see the position done, whether Madison sort of gave it to him or whether, obviously we know Dylan Rudd's got pace on his side, but it wouldn't hurt just to sit there and follow and just see what maybe he's doing different with driving styles that he might be able to learn something as this race goes on. So lap 6 of 57 still an absolutely long way to go, but plenty to learn for these drivers if they're following someone.
This was something I heard talked about in the background at the tail end of lap number 1 was Scott Gamble was not happy with Adam Briggs. There was something that went on there, and Briggs was deemed at fault for that one, driving infringement. 5 seconds will be added to his time unless he takes it at the pit stop. And for Briggsy, that's a tricky pill to swallow, I guess. A little bit difficult in terms of things, but hey, that's racing. It's only 5 seconds. Get your head down, see what you can manage.
Absolutely. So the stewards have already started to earn their lollipops this evening. We said that they might be busy this evening as far as with how close it is and limits and everything around here. So they've already got one on the charts already. But that's what you got to do. You just got to swallow it and say, at the end of the day, you've got the penalty. Just now it lies forward and don't worry about it.
Remind me what football team you support again, Sandman? I might need to go find some referees and pay them off a little.
No comment, Your Honour.
In terms of things at the moment, Griffin Gardner is going to be all over the back end of Madison Down, and think back to Sebring, it was the internet that let Griffin Gardner down. He had a clean car when he popped out the other side of the incident from round number 1, and he was in a phenomenal spot. He would have had control of the field, and Richard Hampstead was actually behind him, and then the internet dropped out. By the time the safety car was called, Richard Hampstead had no one on the road in front of him. So it's been a tough old season for the driver from 9.5 Sim Sports. Oh, Madison down to the inside. I reckon Dylan Rudd might have got a slowdown.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. You beat me to it. I think that's the only reason that Madison got the job. That was a huge dive. So he must have got a cut there and had to back out of it. No,
I got an update for you. It's come from the stewards. Car 990 redress behind car number 1. So there was contact in the move Dylan Rudd got done on Madison Down, and you can see why he looks faster than him. So it wasn't a slowdown penalty. It was a penalty. It was no, you got to go back and you got to earn that one again, boys.
But you know what? Every day of the week, I would take that. I'd gladly swap over. So we go to the OG Gear replay. And this is what the stewards looked at and deemed that he needed to give the position back. And you know what? I'll take that every day of the week, because the last thing you need is a penalty. Oh, he's made a late dive. He's locked the tyre there. Just got into the side of down, and the stewards have decided that he just needed to readdress that. You'd much rather readdress that than get maybe a time penalty or a trundle down pit lane.
Yeah, definitely much better than 5 seconds to be added. And now that's not a replay, that is live pictures, because Dylan runs back to the inside. They're going to go toe-to-toe. He lifts. That's an opportunity for Griffin Gardner. He lifted a long way. He was never going to get the car rotated without a big lift. And now he's deep when they get down here to turn number 8 as well. He's missed the apex just a little, but he might have done enough. Now it's back to the left-hand side. Gardner's going to have a look. But for a moment there, you thought the 93 machine might have just put a wheel ahead of Dylan Rudd. There was an opportunity, and Madison Down is proving why he was champion last season. I think the defensive skills of that number 1 car on a night where he doesn't have pace, that will be key come championship night.
And easy for Dylan to get frustrated too, you know, just that little bit of contact, unfortunately. But what he does now is he knows that he's obviously got that little bit of pace, but he just has to reset and know that he has to get the job done again. So has a second crack at it. Doesn't have to worry about the readdress now, but that would be playing on his mind. He'd be frustrated because he's like, I already had the job done. I could have been pulling away, but now I've got to do it all over again.
Yep, breathe, take a breath, make sure you set it up, make sure you do it properly, because your race could disappear in a moment. And talk about this one back up front. James Scott, second on the grid, got the cleaner getaway, but Phil Sell's driven all the way back up to him, and now he's with an opportunity. Scott's a touch wide at the apex. Phil Sell's able to carry better mid-corner speed, and that's with the dirty air. Now he's going to get a tow. How do the teammates play this? Probably not close enough to get down underneath him at turn number 6. But he is closing, and boy, I tell you what, it is so difficult to look at that 94 car and go, man, I think he's going to win this thing.
Yeah, just looking at these onboard cameras, you can see the attitude of the way Phil Sell's car was just behaving, how he got it turned in. He does look much pacier. I don't know that James Scott would be able to hold him up even if he wanted to. So I don't know that he'll probably put up too much of a fight, and I don't think it'll be too much longer before we see Phil Sell get the job done here. So whether he just moves over, cracks the throttle and lets him pass, or whether Jerez just has a decent crack. It is early on. We don't have to worry about team orders just yet, but yeah, Jerez definitely looking the pacier of the two at this stage.
And I think there was actually contact on that lap at the hairpin between the 111 machine of Teo Serrano. So something's just happened to that car on the current lap as we're seeing the battle for the lead progress. Marcelo Rivera's not disappearing at the back end of that battle either. So there's a few things that are potentially on here. And don't count Gilliam out as well. He's just sitting there. He's just in the picture. The tricky part for me, now we start to think about strategy. We're 9 laps into this race. We've got 8 complete. 9 laps into this race, so about double it from here. That's when we start thinking about pit stops. If you're gonna go for the 3-stop strategy, split it into 4, about 14 laps is your stint. So we're getting into that range now, Sandman. The problem for me, have a look at the field spread. There is none.
Yeah, well, the concerning bit for me, if I'm trying to win this race and I'm not in the top 5, is the margin between 5th and 6th. That gap between Ethan Grigg, Galton, Madison Down, we see these top 5 are pretty much sometimes in the same frame, but you look back further on and you can't see where 6th and 7th is. So that's my concern if I'm a little bit further down in the pack.
Yeah, and it's from 6th place, and it's all the way down to about 26th, 27th spots, somewhere from there, from 6th place. That's the gap. By the way, update on that one. Car 07, redress behind the 111. So I think that's Brady Baldwin who got by with a little bit of a rub on the 111 machine of Teo Serrano. And he's been ordered to redress that one, has done so now, and hasn't lost another spot. But what it has done is presented an opportunity in the background. There's bump and run in all of this pack. It's Haydenfeld and Damian Johnson that were side by side as they got down into the turn 6. And Sandman's getting excited. I think those rear tyres are getting excited, though. That's the key.
Well, the tricky bit was all that nose-to-tail action. Yes, he readdressed, but the last thing he needs is contact from the rear and then making contact with the car that you've just let them by, because, you know, the stewards will look at that, but, you know, thankfully there was nothing there that could have got a lot worse. But you always hold your breath a little bit when there's some nose-to-tail action and they start getting a little bit of pushing and shoving, because the stewards won't look like that, especially when you've just given the spot back. But it wasn't his fault. A little bit of nose-to-tail, but they've all managed to get away with it.
And the one that always creeps into the back of your mind when you hear a redress and you think of a redress going wrong, Garth Tander, was it McLaughlin, Tander and Whincup, always creeps into memory. And everyone will always think about that to the end of time because it just defines Australian touring car racing. Whether you like the redress, whether you hate the redress, you will always remember that moment.
And as a driver, I'd much prefer a redress than a time penalty or a trip down pit lane. We go back and check this battle. So Madison Down really got his work cut up for him. Dylan Rudd, he'd be looking there. He can see that margin starting to stretch to the leaders. He wants to get the job done. I think he's going to be looking for a nice exit. Can he get a run out of here? We're down cover the inside. He's going to be trying to make a dive up the inside.
We go. He's close enough.
Yep, he's got it. Oh, he didn't quite get the job done. As Brown Down's gone too deep. He's left the door open. They're going to go side by side. They're going to go through down. Down's got the right part of the racetrack. He's got the inside now. So Rudd's going to have to try the crossover. Can he get the job done? Madison's awake to it. It's now nose to tail action for these guys. We've already seen a little bit of contact between Down and Dylan Rudd. He's got to be careful he doesn't do it again. He's really earning his money right now.
But I tell you, he's offline. He's offline when they get down here, and Rudd's got to drive through the middle of the corner. It might be at the final corner. It might be timing it. They both bounce the curb when they get down to turn number 10. Now it's the drive-through, the moto section of the lap, the long right-hander in at 11. It's another right-hander at 12. Then it's the final corner. Lorenzo, the hairpin, named after Jorge Lorenzo, the Spanish MotoGP rider. Dylan Rudd comes close, but Madison Down, I don't think I could ever say I feel like he's driving over his ability, but another phrase from racing greats that creeps into the back of my mind is Mark Larkham talking to Formula 4 drivers, and he said, if you've got a car that's only good enough for fifth, don't try and win the race. And right now, I've never seen Madison drive this way. I've got to be honest.
Yeah, well, he's just covering his marks at the moment. And the one thing that I do like about how Dylan Rudd is trying to attack him, he's putting a little bit of bumper to him. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But he's moving around in Madison's rearview mirror too. That's always going to keep Madison on his toes. He knows he's fighting that car. He hasn't got a great car. But when you can distract the driver in front and make him look behind to see where you're at, I reckon that's one huge key of maybe distracting him and getting them to make a little mistake.
And that key at turn 5 is it's actually a double apex corner. The apex, again, later than you think. There's sort of an initial turn in and then a secondary turn. And this time, Madison Down, he surges under the initial part of braking. When you see these two cars get down into turn 6, Down is deeper and harder on the brakes. Dylan Rudd is braking a fraction earlier and gentler the whole way through. Very different styles on the brakes down there, Sandman.
I guess we start thinking about pit stops. I saw Bo Albert was in the lane there, just he was servicing the car. So I guess we start thinking, we're lap 11 now. So who starts thinking about their tyres and trying to roll the dice? If they start thinking about, if they're stuck in traffic and they can't get the job done, do they try and pit early? But you can see a little bit of frustration there too. Was that Griffin Gardner who was flashing his lights there behind Dylan Rudd? So you can see that he can see what's happening in front of him. He's getting that frustration because he probably feels that he can get the job done, but he can see that Dylan Rudd isn't getting the job done at the same point.
Yeah, and now Teo Serrano, well, he got ordered to, was Brady Baldwin to let that move come back by. He got out a little bit sequenced, we're hearing on this lap, and a couple cars have now trundled through. And you're right, Sam, and I'm just thinking in the back of my mind, when do I think about the pit lane? I think it's too early. But for Bo Albert, by the way, I was watching his progress. Remember he had that drive-through penalty? He drove all the way back up to 36. He drove back up to the train. So he's got pace in that car as well to think about. And that car in the back of the shot, I think that's actually Freeman. No, my apologies, wrong driver. I was just thinking that white machine, not what. Sorry, my apologies. We are looking at the tail end of the field. That is Thomas Freeman. So another change up and down the field. Thomas Freeman was working with the 9.5 Sim Racing outfit, and that partnership is no longer in operation. So he's now moved on to privateer status, and another partnership that just breaks down. There's some ebb and there's some flow and these sorts of things.
Yeah,
that's racing.
Yeah, that's it. You just, something, drama at the hairpin. Now, it looks like, was that a dive and then maybe a rear dress there, possibly? I'm trying to work out there. Probably found himself a little bit too hot under brakes and smart-headed move there, just decided to rear dress without sort of have stewards intervene there. But that's always a tricky part, isn't it? That part of the racetrack, you're carrying so much speed down that straightaway and you're pulling up in the hairpin. Let's go to the OG gear replay and see exactly what happened.
Always be a run down here, and for Blake Warboys, he's trying to get the move done on Jordan Ross. So this will be what kick-started it. And watch the braking zone. Again, Ross was a little bit earlier on the brakes. There was a moment down there. There was an opportunity. And, yep, I think that's the right call, and I think that was smartly done. It's hard racing. That's how much the rear tyres are screaming for a break around here, and I think that really highlights that picture well.
Yeah, and good on Blake for just readdressing. You know that he made a little whoopsie there, made contact, and as a driver, if that happened to me and the driver readdresses, then it's like, all right, well, fair play. You know, obviously it wasn't intentional. A little bit of, he got in there.
By the way, there's a change for position of Madison Down and Dylan Rudder are side by side yet again, and it's at turn 2. He got underneath him at 2, but the next corner, turn 3's a left-hander clambering all over that curve. So Rudd's trying it. You can just sense, okay, Down is really starting to hold this pack up now, and Griffin Gardner's getting close. You know what? The flash of the lights from Griffin Gardner wasn't necessarily, hey, mate, get after it. I'm a little bit annoyed with that one. I think it was actually, hey, mate, get the job done. We're all queuing up here.
Oh, I think he might get it done here. He looks like he's got a little pace here. He's going to throw it up the inside. I don't know if Down's going to be able to hold him off. But we've seen how successful Down's been around the outside. If he can just hold it.
Oh, there's still an overlap.
It's still there. It's still there. He can't shut the door. Down's going to hold on again. That's been his signature move. They're going to go side by side, giving each other room, but he's got the job done now. Dylan Rudd breathes a sigh of relief, clears Madison Down, and now he's got to go and try and get away from Down because Griffin Gardner is going to pressure on him as well.
I tell you what, Sam, man, it was a wiggle in the final stage of the braking for Madison Down that let it go, and Griffin Gardner senses opportunity. When the driver's ahead of you at weak, sometimes the hole opens, but you've got to be brave to get the car down and in there. Griffin Gardner wants a top 5 tonight. You can just sense that it's in the water. Right now, though, it's 7 seconds down the road. That's how much this squabbling started to cost this pack. Rudd breaks free, and look at him immediately puts a car length on Madison Down. Now it's 2 car lengths, and now Madison Down's nearly got a car length inside of that rear boot.
Yeah, that mid-corner speed from Griffin Gardner there on the back of Madison Down, that was impressive. He got it turned in, and he's going to think about a dive here. No, he thinks better of it. He's going to wait for a better opportunity. It'll probably come down that long straightaway into the hairpin. He'll probably want to copy exactly what Dylan Rudd got done, but man, how impressive has Madison Down been? He's had a few people attack him on that corner, but he's been able to stay strong around the outside, so a good effort in a car that's not so great at the moment.
I'm really interested to see what Dylan Rudd's lap time looks like now. And look, he's just clearing. He's gone. He's already put, what, a second on these guys? 0.8 of a second in 6 corners.
Yeah,
That's how quick he is right now. And now it's going to be Griffin Gardner who gets an opportunity. He's just about kissing the rear end of Madison Down as they come off at turn 5. Pulls out to the inside. He's going to have a crack. He's alongside when they get into the braking zone. He's deep. It's Griffin Gardner. Gets the job done. Pulls it out. Props him up. Props him. Now Madison Down gets into the rear bumper. He's got a TTR logo for his efforts, but he's got the job done.
Yeah, now Down's just going to have it. He's got another TTR teammate behind him too. So as much as Down's struggling, you know, he has been holding up this pack. And when we watched that, you talked about that 7-second margin that opened up. I think it was only 4 seconds when we started watching this. So to give up that much time to the leaders, that was desperation for Dylan Rudd and Griffin Gardner to get past Down because they knew how much time they were giving up.
By the way, it's only less than 0.4 of a second for the race lead as it currently stands. Rivera's not been able to hang with the front 2 guys as they've continued on throughout this race. And I think this one will come down to the pit lane strategy. Who's willing to go brave? Remember, 14 laps will be in the book as we cross the start-finish line this time by. And Down's not giving up either. Whilst Dylan Rudd may be able to skip clear, Griffin Gardner hasn't been able to accelerate away by that same margin. What's the lap time, though, now for Dylan Rudd in the 990 machine? It's going to be a 43.057. I tell you what, he's 1/10 of a second off our race leader. He had speed in that machine. He's taken 3/10 out of Greek Gold ahead of him, 4/10 out of Gilliam.
Unfortunately, his night's gone pear-shaped from the start. You know, we saw that he didn't get the best of starts, found himself back in the pack, and that's where it's cost him. And now to have that margin, 11 seconds that he's got to try and close up to his teammates. I mean, he's definitely got his work cut out for him. I don't know how he's going to be able to do it. Whether a safety car makes it a little bit easier for him, I don't know. But like you said, he's definitely got pace in that machine. And we've seen it from all the Lobs cars. They've been very, very quick. But he's definitely got himself to, you know, he's got his work cut out for him to close up that margin of 11 seconds.
I'll just put something in the back of your mind. All right, yeah, we've talked about rubber and we talked about it quite a lot. Yeah, probably a lot. I don't think it's too much though. And now Madison Down is still in the wars. By the way, 2 spots gone through. It's teammate Brady Myers, but Rick Kuznetsov's gone, boys. I got a championship fight to go after. I'm going to have to make my way through. And he's driving supremely tonight as the driver of that 888 machine. But rubber, let's talk about it. It's going to be interesting. Lap 14. Some of the teams were starting to get a 50% tyre wear warning after 14 laps. Guess where we are? Lap number 15. And there was another team that said it's lap 14, lap 15 for us as well. So that was confirmed up and down pit lane. Times, our race leader has fallen off to the tune of 1.8 seconds, 1.78 seconds on the last time by. What is James Scott's next lap time going to be? That'll be quite interesting to just keep an eye on. 1:43.1, so now it's going to become about 1.9 seconds. So it is starting to really tumble.
Now, that's something that I would start thinking about being, if I was in the camp for Madison Down, he's obviously struggling with his car. They've put their hand up and said, look, we don't have the best package. So if he's struggling and going backwards, does he think about darting in and putting on a fresh set of tyres just to try and close up a little bit of that margin and roll the dice with a little bit of strategy? It's early on. It's probably a good time to start thinking about it. But I guess that's up to them, being that they're now starting to fall outside the top 10.
And Stewart's having a look at a few things, and as the tyres start to wear, I think that'll continue. Oh, and by the way, pace from Dylan Rudd fell off just about immediately, so we had about 1 lap worth of good pace on those tyres. Might have been a mistake on that most recent lap, but oh, look at these guys squabbling. You know what? I reckon Phil Stell's got better rubber underneath him at the moment.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. He's always been pretty smart with his tyre wear, but he's in a position where he doesn't really have to push too, so he's got a chance where he can look after his tyres just that little bit better as well.
If you're in the team, do you go, all right, well, I'm going to go for a really long stop, I'm going to go for a medium stop? You just split the strategy a little bit, so you're a little bit different out on track, and you go, all right, now it's up to each of us to do the best job that's possible for us. And don't forget, Zach Rattray-White, best qualifying performance of the season, has got an opportunity here tonight. And I think he's actually lost 2 spots on the current lap, so he's been in the wars as they've passed through the lap this time by. I think it might have been Jordan Roche and Josh Anderson who got by on that lap, and Forza Nabi's really harassing the rear bumper of Ian Ford. There's another driver you sort of think about. You go back to Sebring and go, yeah, he had a great night at Sebring until he didn't.
Yeah, easy from the commentary box, isn't it? We throw these guys under the bus sometimes, but everything. Oh, we can see a cart darting off into the pit lane there. I just didn't catch quite who that was. Matthew Bowler. So he's decided to roll the dice and go a little bit late. So what's his lap 17 now? So it'll be interesting now. We see the times of the leader and what times he's been able to be doing once he's out of pit lane.
Well, interesting to sort of keep half an eye on is the times in the back end of that pack. Zach Rattray-Wright's last time, 45.1. He's actually fallen off 3 seconds, just about bang on 3 seconds in terms of things. And we were hearing talk, I talked to a few drivers, they said about 3 seconds. You're going to see that sort of level of tyre degradation. The pack's starting to break up. Well, I looked at the numbers when we got to about lap 10 and I went, no, there's no way. They're still within about a second worth of their fastest lap times. It's right now the tyres are hitting that cliff, Sandman. This is where driver skill kicks in.
Yeah, and as a spectator, as a commentator, as someone who watches the series, that's what you want to see. You want to see these guys that, really have to look after it. And when the tyres fall off, if they fall off that hard, that's when it starts to get exciting, because who can look after them to go maybe a couple of laps better? Who decides to go in for fresh tyres? I mean, there's so many different challenges that are going to be thrown at these drivers over the next few laps when they start thinking about when they're going to pit.
Yeah, great goal, by the way. Just keeping half an eye on it. I was talking to team manager Brenton O'Brien earlier on, and he said, look, if he starts to fall off, you guys got it wrong back at the Red Bull Ring. It wasn't fuel. The tyres started to go away on that car, just in a little bit of a hole. So we got that one wrong back at the Red Bull Ring. He said it's going to be the same thing tonight. If you see the pace start to fall off, nothing to do with fuel saving. It's all rubber. And Greg Gold's just starting to suffer a little bit.
I think the thing that he can take away from that, though, is he's reasonably in touch. Yes, it's nearly at 7 seconds, but to be just in that group and be in touch with the leaders, I think he'll still be happy at this point in time.
Yeah, could be conserving, could be trying to set him, at this point, at this juncture, we don't have enough information to say, yeah, it's definitely going to go this way. Robbie Gibbs is going to file into the pit lane. Remember, he's had a season to remember. He will be championing this one and has celebrated a few times thus far. He's going to come to the pit lane. Have a look at the number of ERT cars, by the way. Gibbs, Veld, Ian Ford, all ERT cars that come to the lane. And it was Bowler on the most recent lap that actually came in, and Bo Albert that was the first of the cars to dive to the lane. I'm seeing a common theme here.
Oh, are we going to see maybe a 3-stop strategy with these two as well? So I guess that's something to sort of think about as it plays out. But yeah, interesting, and interesting to see what these times these guys are doing compared to the leaders as well.
Probably worthwhile noting at this juncture, Bo Albert hit at the tail end of lap 10. So he's on tyres now that are 7 laps old and are starting their 8th circuit at the current point in time. That's why he's, look, Matt's on fresh tyres. I'm just going to let him go. But he is making ground. He's been matching times with the leaders, and he's actually been taking reasonable chunks out of all the other cars that are in that big old pack at the moment. Let's keep half an eye on where Madison Downs' progress is going. He's slipped back to 10th spot, and at the moment, Tom Freer is actually to his outside and fighting away with him, and Freer will be looking for drive off. I'll tell you what, Tom Freer just about got to the back end of the Trans-Tasman racing machine. And Madison Down is a vulnerable species as we currently stand. He is in a world of tyre hurt. Yeah, it's a bit of an unknown for us, isn't it, to see that Madison's struggling like this, but definitely got the pressure from behind. And I would have thought they'd probably start thinking, I'd love to know when they're going to think about bringing him in, and would he be the first of the TTR cars, because it looks like obviously he's struggling at this stage. So interesting to see. So it looks like that Maloney was in as well. Yeah, I don't hate that.
First.
And the other driver I was talking to earlier in the day as well was Jake Burt. He said, man, I've had no time to actually jump in the sim, right? We were talking about that earlier on. Guess why? COVID.
Oh,
He's been sick, so he's not doing well, and he's going to struggle. He's not 100% recovered, not back to full strength as it currently stands. He just said, I don't expect anything from tonight. It's gonna be a struggle street, and I think the results reflect that.
Yeah, never much fun at the best of times. If you haven't had enough prep coming into these races, this is such a high level of racing now in this series, and everyone brings their A game each and every week, and if you're a little bit off the pace or you're not feeling great, it really punishes you. But the best thing they can do is actually show up, get as many points as they can, because that can benefit towards the end of the season.
That's a very, very long stop for Jake Maloney. Have we got our first penalty of the night? I reckon we do. I've just gone back and had a look at his pit lane entry. We're going to have a look at that one, I tell you what, on live pictures. And I'll show you what 40 seconds looks like as you get into the pit lane, because it's not pretty. What do the leaders do? Well, they're in control. There's really no issue with them continuing on. And Jake Maloney's finally going to get out of his pit bay. 1 minute and 6 seconds worth of stoppage time. He's been in there for a very, very long time.
Leaders have just gone past, so that puts him 1 lap down. That just rubs salt into the wound at the moment.
Yeah, and he's going to come out just ahead of Marcelo Rivera. Blue flags will be in operation, but he's going to have tyre wear on his side and lap pace on his side as it currently stands. It would be really, really interesting. It wouldn't surprise me if we see either James Scott or Phil Sell both in the lane. They just look at it and go, this one's not worth fighting. And the original Game of Gear replay is going to tell the story of Jake Maloney's pit lane entry. He's on the jacks for an extended point of time, and it was just before that. Unfortunately, that one didn't come in a shot. This is what it looked like on the pit lane entries. He files down in another shot here. Look at how narrow that lane is.
Oh, he had a big moment coming into the lane. So, yeah, unfortunately, he was lucky just to stay and not go into the field of racing again. So that could have been a lot worse than what it actually was. Just imagine if he'd come out in front of all those cars and just would have cleaned up another couple of cars that were on the racing line. So lucky to get away with that. But disappointing. But like you said, now he's got the fresh tyres, and the tricky part is now that he's coming up to the leaders. He wants to get the job done because he wants to push on and make the most of these tyres. But he knows he's got the two guys in front of him battling for the race win.
Yeah, and it's difficult for Maloney to handle. It's difficult for those guys to handle as well. That's what I'm saying. I just dive the lane. Why not? Why take the risk if you're in Jared Philsell's position? It's not really a risk that's worth taking, how lap traffic treats you. And the tyre wear, well, let's have a look when he gets to the start-finish line for Jake Maloney. He's caught them a significant amount. 43.7 was the previous lap. Philsell just did a 43.5. And Philsell just lifts out and just says, yep, you feed through. Oh, my word, what just happened?
That looked like a little bit of crossover. Just didn't quite clear the car, and then unfortunately ended up in the tyre barriers. I was looking at the timing screen as that happened, so I didn't quite get. I saw the tail end of it, but managed to get away with it. The car's got a little bit of damage as we go to the replay. But let's check this out on the OG Gear replay. Looks like he didn't Oh, the car moved a little bit, didn't quite clear him. Bang. It's a bit like what we saw at Barbagallo on the weekend.
Yeah, and that's Sacratre White was a 17 machine. So, yeah, that one's going to have a number of looks. It's to the inside at the hairpin. He just tracks out. There's no room there. Yep.
Yeah, well, he's still there. You can't just close the door on him. So, you know, yeah. Anyway, more lollipops to the steward's room, please.
Might be a cue by the time we get to the end of the race, but firing it down the inside goes Adam Briggs. Gets by the number 2 machine, and by the way, confirmation, Adam Briggs has actually served that 5-second penalty from earlier in the race he had for contact with Scott Gamble on lap 1, so this is representative of his current position in the race. And now he's cleared Robbie Gibbs' machine and will continue on down the road. And by the way, we just saw in the background, Griffin Gardner was the first of that lead pack that dived into the lane. So he's going for the undercut and he's going to try and get after the 990 machine of Dylan Rudd. And I'd be interested to see, I reckon Dylan Rudd will probably pit this lap.
Yeah, I was just looking at that as well. So that's going to be really, really key. They don't want to leave it too long. You're talking about the drop-off with the tyres, so...
Yeah, and there's a bunch of cars in the pit lane this time by. So Marcelo Rivera's in, Ethan Greek Gold both in, and they were running just outside the podium. So it's 1, 2, 3 on the road are the only ones to have trundled by. Then it's a few cars out of the pack. Dylan O'Shea's in. Here it comes. Time for the pit crews to earn their money, to earn their keep. What have the strategists got on board for us? How much fuel are they throwing at this car? Remember, tyres take time. So there is at least going to be a 20-litre margin that will be left in these machines for that final stop minimum.
Yeah, the teams or the drivers don't have to worry about these early stops by everyone else, as James Scott and Jared Filsell. Because they had that margin over the rest of the field, they can sacrifice a couple of laps without giving away too much. So it'd be handy for them to have that little bit of fresher tyres if they decide to go a couple of laps longer. And we can see that these drivers now just leaving the pit lane. So this is where it all starts to get interesting, doesn't it? Now fresh tyres, old tyres and strategies all starting to take place here on lap 22 and 57.
And strategy is going to play a huge part. But I tell you what, have a look at Dylan Rudd's pit stop. It was significantly shorter, and he's now going to be right on the tail end of Ethan Greek. Have a look. Griffin Gardner's jumped them both. Griffin Gardner's got them both, so he's had an extremely short stop. Dylan Rudd's through the lane, 22.2 seconds, 21.5. So Gardner's had a very, very short stop. There's 0.7 of a second, but think about the lap times over the last couple of laps. 1 lap there, and the margin for fall off was what, close to 3 seconds? Well, he could have gained 3 seconds with 1 lap worth of undercut.
Oh, look at that pit lane time between Gardner and Rudd. There was 1 second difference just in the pit lane time. So whether that's his approach or whether he got back up to speed, that's been key, hasn't it?
This is going to be one of the most complex races we're going to have on this season because there's so many different elements to it. The leaders, they're continuing to go on by. I've got to keep an eye on Andrew Gilliam, though, because I think he's just fired into the lane. Yeah. Brady Myers has continued on, so he's going to skip out on that one. Tom Freya's still yet to come to the lane. So these guys are all taking risks. Madison Town's still out on track. And by the way, he's going to have Jordan Ross right on his gearbox at this point in time. And keep your eye on Marcelo Rivera, who's going to come to the final corner. There was a car there that he was hoping would step aside and did. But it's a tricky night to be a motorcar driver. And for Andrew Gilliam, where's he going to figure it out? So Rivera goes on through. How much fuel has Gilliam bolted on board this thing? Where does he come out relevant to Griffin Gardner? It's going to be tight on the exit. It's going to be very tight just in front. And that's key because that's going to set up Gilliam's night.
Oh, that's heart and mouth stuff, isn't it? When you start to get towards, you're coming out of pit lane and you're checking your mirrors to see who's coming around you. But yeah, manages to hold on here. But I guess now it'll be the next lap or two. I would imagine you'd probably see Scott and Filsell decide to dive in. They don't want to leave it too late, even though they did have that little bit of margin up their sleeve. So I'm keen to see, and I'm a bit surprised that Madison Down hasn't dived in. As he's still out there. Looks like he's got his work cut out for him too here at the moment, but we've seen how much he's been struggling. I thought he would have been jumping at the opportunity to get some fresh tyres on that thing.
Well, they always run long, don't they, over at TCR on that first stint. By the way, Griffin Gardner, last lap by, took 2.1 seconds out of the leaders. I think they've got to pit. I think they've got to pit this lap.
Yep. I heard you. So they have dived straight into pit lane now. So we touched on it. They couldn't afford to give up too much real estate. So they're in the pit lane now. Now we're going to see how it all starts to play out with Jordan Ross. He's in the lane as well.
And one of the things that I don't think ever gets talked about enough is if you've got really, really good long run pace, what it does is it opens up options. If you can only do a 10-lap stint, and that's after that you've got no pace in the car whatsoever, your tyres have gone, you've got no options. You've got to run 10-lap stints or as close to that number as you possibly can. The instant you've got longer run pace, you can do whatever you need to do to suit your race. If it means you get a short blast, you get a short blast. That's brilliant. But if you don't, that's okay too. Oh, no way. Oh, no way. Andrew Gilliam's going to jump on both. He's to the inside. This is a battle on for the effective race lead. Actually, it's not. It's for effective race second as it currently stands. By the way, Rivera's skittled through on the lot of them. He now effectively leads this race for the drivers who have made their pit stops.
Got himself a decent margin too at the end of the day. Look at that gap that he's got over the rest of them. So that's been very impressive from Marcelo. He's jumped on that opportunity to get the job done in the pits and make that run with fresh tyres, and he's starting to open up that advantage.
Yeah, very short pit stop time though compared to James Scott. Have a look at it. It's about 3.5 laps. And by the way, Gilliam just flashed the brake lights up at Jared Filsell. He said, I'm not fighting. I'm not interested in this one. I'm not in your postcode. So go on. I'll let you tow me around.
And that's smart because we've seen obviously the pace out of this team. So, you know what, that's really smart driving. Just doesn't have to worry about having that pressure from behind. He can just concentrate on his own line, hit his marks, and just try and see if he can tag onto the back of Phil Sell for as long as he can.
This has now got so many. You know what? This kind of feels like one of those multi-layered cakes. You go, that first layer, boy, that kind of tastes really nice. But you know what goes well with chocolate? Maybe a little bit of strawberry. Let's go for a Neapolitan cake. Let's add a third layer. I tell you what, this cake's got about 10 layers to it because there's that many different pit lane strategies. Everyone's gone short, everyone's gone long, everyone's zigged, everyone's zagged. And it's not until we get that final pit stop out of the way that we're actually going to have some answers. And don't forget, there's a bunch of ERT cars in this mix that are probably going to three-stop this one.
Absolutely. Freya, Stenberg, O'Reilly, they're all in the lane too. Madison Downer stayed out. Josh Anderson stayed out. So they've got themselves that little bit of margin, 15 seconds up the road, but they are going to be swallowed up quite quickly. You can imagine that the pace from the rest of the teams there, they will be chasing them down fairly quickly. But, man, what are they going to do? I mean, how are they going to play this out? Because obviously they're giving up some real estate now with everyone that's got fresh tyres. But I'm wondering how much longer they're going to hang out there before they come into the pit lane.
Well, if you say, look, Bo Albert was the first of the guys to go, and he caught that chain. He just went, man, I've got to get out of this. I can't make any ground here. It's going to be extremely, extremely difficult. So he's the first of the drivers to pit. He came in at the end of lap 10. There's 9 laps difference to Jake. There's 10 laps worth of difference on the tyres to Jake Burton. He's just gone by him. Adam Briggs was 9 laps worth of difference. And now Rattray White's just in underneath his rear wing, and that's 9 laps worth of difference. So this is what it looks like in terms of relative lap pace. And all these guys have had a few laps on their tyres as well, so they're not extremely fresh. They have been scrubbed and scuffed just a little bit. Rattray White pulls to the inside. Look, no, can't fight it, can't do anything about it. But you know what he is doing very, very well? He's losing spots without losing time here, and that's the key to this strategy.
Yeah, if you can be in opportune places where you can just roll out of the throttle a little bit, or, you know, just give up, just break that tiny bit earlier, you don't lose as much as what you can do, exactly what you touched on. So that's smart heads-up racing. He knows he's going to get swamped, but he's doing it in the best way possible without sort of giving up too much margin.
Blake Warboys would have thought about an opportunity down there as well. This battle pack is going to be so interesting to just keep an eye on. Dylan Rudd sits in 8th spot. It'll be 8th spot this time by, and there'll be a really, really interesting play to see who's able to pull away. Greek Galt's now back ahead of him. Andrew Gilliam's well and truly up the road. Oh, by the way, Phil still pulled 1.5 seconds on Andrew Gilliam since he passed him. So, there's pace in that machine. And now they're starting to close down on Rivera. Rivera had a little bit more of a margin than that on the last time by. He's going to lead laps here tonight. Oh, and don't forget, we've actually got 2 drivers that are still out there. When we talked about drivers that were struggling in terms of tyres, what is Madison Downs still doing? This confuses me now.
Yeah, that's what I was curious about. I'm wondering why they've decided to go long. Obviously, the cars haven't been the best. We've spoken about that, but I guess they're probably reasonably happy with what they've got. They're not going to be in any ballpark near with what anyone else has got with pace because of the tyre grip difference. But when they're running around on 26-lap-old tyres, and we touched on that the cars aren't the best at the moment, well, you can see just how much attitude that Downs got on the back of that TTR Commodore. It makes me wonder what they're going to think about as far as strategy, when or how much longer they're going to leave it before they decide to dive into pit lane.
and we're rapidly closing on. I think we've actually hit our critical lap number. So, you know, if it wasn't a compulsory 2 stops, you could pit from about here and get home. And Josh Anderson actually just went out and picked up a whole bunch of gravel underneath his car as well. So now they're all going to fire into the lane. End of lap number 26, and Madison's holding him up. He's getting a little bit of a hurry up from his teammate on the way into pit lane, because that is just how far those tyres have faded. The thing to the end of the race, though, from here, is you got 2 stints to go. What are we? Ended lap number 26 means we're going to have 57 laps in operation. Too much math. 31 laps to home. 15 and 16 laps are going to be your final stints, is sort of what to think about. Oh, and for the one fishy driver in the field for Michael Whiting, it's not been a great night at the office. His night's done, as is that for Jake Maloney.
Okay, it's always tough, isn't it, when you retire from these races? But look, at the end of the day, they put tonight behind them and start thinking about the next round, because yeah, it's never a good pill to swallow, is it? But at the end of the day, now it's just eyes forward and thinking about the next round.
Yeah, I'll be very, very interested to see when Madison Down pops back out after this stop, and I think it's been a long stop as well. Yeah, I think they might have just filled the tank in both of those TTR cars. He actually pops out, started inside the top 10, runs 28th. Ugh.
Yeah, and that's how much ground that he lost just on old tyres. I mean, you know, he was already sort of on the point of slipping outside the top 10 before pit stop started. So to be in a position where he's at now, obviously he's got the fresh rubber, but that's a lot of margin as he gets past his teammate there. But yeah, definitely got their work cut out for him for the rest of the night if they want to try and salvage something from this.
Well, if you ever wanted a picture of his their team orders over at TTR, I think that just encapsulated. That's Kurt Stenberg. Time for a standing check-in. Oh, he's now back in 28th position as Madison Down teammate gets on by him. E-pit at the end of lap number 24. So he's got about 3-4 laps in terms of his tyres. And that is what the difference between 3 and 4 laps worth of tyres runs in. But, gee, Steady didn't help his teammate there at all.
Well, one thing I do like within TTR, there isn't team orders unless there needs to be, I guess, in the dying stages, and they're in a position where one person can win the race over someone else. You know that, and I guess that's like any team. You know, I guess you're only really going to step in if it's crucial. But being that it's mid-race, you know, yeah, let them go fair game. You know, everyone's got different strategies that they're doing, so you know, why not? I guess it's only the golden rule that you've got to worry about is not taking each other out.
I'm really interested to see how Griffin Gardner's night progresses now. He's got a little bit of margin. He sits in a really good spot. And what about these guys as well, a little bit deeper in the field? Briggsy's already got that 5-second penalty out of the way. Sits 15th, started 22nd. So he's actually had a reasonable night at the office. The car ahead of him is Matthew Bowler. He might be on the undercut strategy, coming at the end of lap number 16. Could be the undercut, could be a 3-stopper. He's flexible in that margin with the lap that he did actually come in on. So he could still have one more stop to go. He could have 2. From where we currently sit, I don't think there's 2 more laps left to go, and I just heard some comms from Bo Albert, so he's had some more dramas go on to continue the issues with his night. And this will tell the story. Another original Game of Gear replay. It was at turn 2. To the inside goes the 5-4-3 gamble. Yeah, they wouldn't have made contact. That's a fair bit of netcode I think is going to be in that one.
Yeah, this is going to be the best shot. You can see he's going to make that move to the inside. He's got the car right alongside, no problems. Oh, yeah. Look, there was door-to-door, but yeah, there is that little bit of netcode that will play its part as well. So, unfortunately, copped a decent whack there, and that cost him a little bit there.
Yep, unfortunate for Bo Albert, and woes continue, unfortunately, for him. But in the meantime, talk about drivers that are on the charge here tonight, and it's going to be another original Game of Gear Hard Charger Award. As it currently stands, Ian Ford's plus 14. That's a phenomenal drive thus far. He leads the way from ERT teammate Matty Bowler. Jake Burton's actually plus 12 as it currently stands, and he's on fresher rubber than a lot of the cars that are in and around him. So when TTR has troubles with one of their drivers, it seems another one of them is actually not doing too bad. So he's right behind Adam Briggs at the moment. There'll be an opportunity to steal a few spots, and that one's still up for debate. I always like seeing Dylan O'Shea do well, because it says he's worked hard on this one, and still some work to do for the driver of the 19, but he sits just outside the top 10. There's opportunity in that drive.
Yeah, and he doesn't have too much pressure at the moment from behind too, so that's always good when you're a driver and you've got yourself into a bit of a rhythm, when you've got that little bit of margin around you and you know you've got that pressure that's off you a little bit. That's always makes things just that little bit easier just to hit your marks and get yourself into a ninth rhythm.
Now where do you cast the eyes? It's up the field, it's down the field. Rick Kuznetsov's made a few spots, starting to close in. And what about this one? Jake Burton's got Warboys trying to get the nose in and underneath him. And Blake Warboys has got fresher up by 2 laps. He got squeezed there by Jake Burton. That was a big old squeeze for Blake Warboys. And if I was in Warboys' seat, I'd be a little bit hot under the collar as it stands.
Yeah, it was very close on exit there, wasn't it? So I don't think it'll be too much longer before he still has another crack at him there. But he touched on the issues that Jake was, obviously not feeling great, but it always makes you feel a little bit better when you start to sit up in the seat when you start racing against these guys. I guess you forget about it a little bit, especially if you're starting to get some good positions and making some moves. So hopefully that's making him feel a little bit better, but he's got his hands full now as Blake starts to close that margin back in on him.
Yeah, the difficulty will be for Jake Burton is probably going to be the last 10 laps. That'll be a long night at the office. That'll be where it starts to kick in. So for right now, I'm sort of sitting at him and I'd probably look at him and go, he might be starting to hail. I think that's Bo Albert committing to a 3-stopper.
He's in, so he's decided to come in. And what are we, lap 30? So yes, you'd imagine he is.
Well, it was 20 laps on that stint, though, for Bo Albert, so that'll be an interesting one to keep an eye on. Fuel strategies and everything's cleansed the field. Marcelo Rivera's leading his first laps of the season, but how about the battle between Stenberg and Veld? Stenberg gets to the inside, job done on Hayden Veld. It's not quite done, though, and Brady Baldwin's starting to buy into the equation as he looks backwards as well. And Baldwin's got an opportunity here to just creep a little bit closer, And Hayden Veld, the difficulty is with that undercut. This is the start of the stint where the tyres scream at you, why have you done this to me?
That's right. And you can just see just that little bit of attitude on the exit there, just trying to get the power down that he knows. He just wants to try and stay in touch and just grab that little bit of draft that he can get off Stenny there. Every little bit helps around here, especially down that long straightaway. But it's all about getting the power down and trying to look after that rubber that's underneath you.
Mate, I don't drive these sorts of cars. I couldn't tinker with the throttle that much. I haven't got the deftness of the right foot. Give me some more MX-5s. Give me some Toyota 86s. I can drive those things. You can put your foot to the floor.
Yeah, less power or more traction control. That's what I need.
Driver aids were made for things like us, right?
Yeah, that's right. People without talent. Thank you very much.
In terms of things, difficult night at the office for the drivers at the tail end of the field. I mean, it's going to be tough for Bo Albert, but I think about Thomas Freeman and you look at him, it's not been a good season thus far. Failed to set a qualifying lap last time out at the Red Bull Ring. He's done it again here tonight. Man, it's just tough. It is very, very tough. You get into this game and you go, yeah, man, I've made it. I'm in the series. I'm doing really well. That's actually when the hard work starts.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think about, anyone who makes this grid, you obviously, you've earned yourself way in there, but that's only the first part of the puzzle. You've really got to take it up to Australia, some of Australia's best sim racers in this field. So, half the problem is just making the grid, but then you've really got to work it out and try to get that pace and take it up to some of these guys. That's when the tricky bit starts.
Yeah, particularly when you were out there and you're potentially working on your own after being with the team for a little bit of time. It's a difficult job being a sim racer. Very, very difficult job to be Thomas Freeman at the moment. But he does watch Brian Borg and Andre Youssef just ahead of him. And they're sort of in the same boat, vying for their spot to stay in the series. And Borg's just lost the place to Andre Youssef. Youssef hasn't looked supreme in terms of pace as it currently stands. And I like Andre. I've spoken to him a number of times. He's a lovely, lovely guy. He's got talent. I'm going to be honest, I don't think this car suits his driving style. I think he looks better in a Porsche Cup car.
I touched on that a little bit earlier about how difficult it is to drive these cars. They're not easy. There are other cars where you can get in and you just gel with them straight away. And these things are not easy at any stretch of the imagination. So when we see these guys really putting on a decent show, that's when the skill comes into it because of just how difficult they are to drive.
An interesting thing up front. Remember, we had to talk about this as the race sort of progressed, and the undercut, well, it got him track position. Now he's got to pay the deficit, is Marcelo Rivera. He's going to lead the way. The car looked really nicely square and set as it come off of turn 5 at the crest of the hill. The run down the back straight, all the way down into turn number 6. Still manages to stay ahead, but the 088 machine gets a little bit bigger. It's got a better drive off at the corner. And have a look at the different lines as they drive off there, Sam. And Rivera had to punch a little bit of throttle earlier to maintain the spot. He ran wide and he had to check the throttle again.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be too much of a battle here. Like, I mean, you know, obviously Marcelo's going to do his best to hold him off, but if it starts to get a little bit wild, he knows he's not going to be able to take it to him. The grip difference between the three of them there is just, it's really not going to benefit him. What he should do is just maybe just open up the throttle a little bit, just let them go and just concentrate on his own run, because what he can do is he can really just basically make more than, you know, anything other problems you can see. He's just going to have a look up here. He runs a little wide, opens up the door. So he's got the job done here, and I think it'll be, before you know it, it'll be Phil Selby diving up the inside of the next turn too. There you go, flash of the brake lights. That's in the sim world. That's where I'm just going to back off and just give it to you, because at the end of the day, he doesn't need to battle. He will lose less time just tucking in behind these guys than he would if he was battling with them.
Yeah, so for those of you who are listening along, watching along at home, yeah, he's 100% right. There's a number of tools drivers have got available to communicate to them. There's spotters, there's a number of words and bits and pieces, but the flash of the brake lights is the international symbol of I surrender. I'm waving the white flag. You guys can come on by. Now, how about this battle pack? Because it's going to involve another EIT driver, and how good does the 63 machine of Warboys look at the moment as he tries to slice down the inside? He's been on the attack as Blake Warboys to the inside of Matty Bowler. Bowler makes contact to the centre at 2. Not done. They'll get on the power out at 2 and out to 3. And Bowler, remember, is on aging tyres. He's on the oldest tyres of the drivers that are probably still out there at this point in time. But the job's not done for Blake Warboys. He'll get the inside here. And Burton actually gave him a bit of bump draft. He said, oh no, they made contact. And Matty Bowler has bowled a wide.
Oh, you saw it, the best seat in the house from Jake Burton on top of the TTR Commodore. You saw all that unfold. It was getting close on there, then a little bit of contact. I thought Jake was going to make it 3 wide there at one stage, but unfortunately there's been...
Have a look in the background at Briggs. I think Briggs has just had contact with Jacob O'Reilly. So there's been a number of drivers in the war tonight. Jake O'Reilly's been one of them. Adam Briggs is another. And the third is Zach Rattray White. Guess where they are all on the track?
That's incredible, isn't it, man? It's just starting to unfold now. I guess there's that little bit of give and take. Everyone's now trying to hustle because they can see that they're starting to slowly run out of laps. They need to make up these positions if they've got that pace in the car. There's more contact back there too. Another car was sideways back there.
Oh no.
Again. He's going to get... he nearly got drilled. He's in a really bad spot there. His night's gone from bad to worse.
Well, I mean, he was on ailing rubber. You get defensive sometimes, it doesn't bowl your way. But Matty Bowler has been hit twice in the same lap. And my word, is he going to get a shot in the rear end? That Scott Gamble is going to try and fire it to the inside. He made the corner. I reckon Bowler's turned in on him.
Yeah, look, Stewards again got their work cut out for him. The original Game of Gear replay. He's made a dive up the inside. He's got enough of the car there. It looks like he maybe just closed the door on him. But anyway, we'll leave that to the stewards.
One thing I have learned about Sam Mann this year, does not want to be a steward, no interest in it whatsoever, couldn't pay the man if you wanted to.
Absolutely, I don't care about that blank check you try and slip in my pocket. I ain't interested.
Mate, that's actually a question for the podcast. I'll talk to you about that in a few weeks. As it currently stands, though, Matty Bowler slits back to 30th spot, but that battle pack we were zeroing in on, I reckon Briggs might have gotten redressed because it was Zach Rattray White who got down to the inside. Did he just get that job? No, sorry, my apologies. It was Jacob O'Reilly I thought might have made contact to him, and O'Reilly's back behind him. So I reckon O'Reilly's actually redressed that one before the stewards got to it, because there definitely was contact between the 72 machine and one of the Vermilion Sim Sports cars, but he's got one ahead, one behind, and those numbers ahead and behind have just changed. So I think that's what's going on.
You can see 5-second penalty there for contact with Rattray White. So Bowler has got the penalty.
That's interesting. That's very, very interesting. That was from lap 24, so that's actually 10 laps ago. So that's not in relation to the incidents that we only just saw up on screen. So
talk about going from bad to worse, though. He's already had all that drama, and then he's also got that penalty from a different incident earlier in the race. Like, that's... yeah, that's never much fun, is it?
No. But like I said, that group of cars has been in the war, so the original Game of Gear replay once again will tell the story, and I think this was the incident we were talking about from lap number 24. So that's to turn 4.
Oh, he was sideways. Ugh.
And it's here at 5. Yeah, you can say that one for sure is on Matty Bowler.
That's pretty much the same incident that happened with him, wasn't it, when we were on board with Burton? So, that's all been happening.
Oh, well, they've settled it on down in again, we hope. But when the tyres are dealing with track temps... Oh, the track temps come down, by the way. I've got an update for you, Sam. Track temp has come down 2 degrees.
They'll take it, though. Drivers will take 2 degrees. It's not much, but they'll take it.
By the way, sim time over in Spain as it currently sits, 3:55 in the afternoon. That's why the track temperature's just a little bit boiling. This track actually sits in between... I did research earlier in the week, I promise you. Gibraltar, it's just down off the Strait of Gibraltar. It's actually not too far from Gibraltar and Seville is the 2 towns it's in the middle of, and it's right near the Atlantic Sea. It's a beautiful picturesque spot of coast. There's a bunch of Englishmen, I tell you, that go over to this section of Europe from their holidays in the middle of the summer, because it's really, really good for sand and surf and those sorts of things. It's a lovely, lovely section of Europe. And it's apparently also really, really good for putting V8 Supercars races on. So V8 Supercars, if you're listening, go here.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad shout, would it? How much fun would that be? I love this layout. I touched on that a little bit at the start of the broadcast. That I tend to jump in the sim and do laps around here, whether it be in an open wheeler or a tin top. It's really a good layout. It's got a little bit of everything, and yeah, you feel really rewarded when you put a decent lap down around here.
I'm really enjoying this drive, by the way. We keep seeing that WKMP car cut through, but I'm liking watching this from Blake Warboys. He's sort of lurked in the background of a number of different races over the year thus far. I tell you, currently stands, he's actually up 8 spots, so he's having a very, very reasonable night as it currently stands, and he is about 3/4 of a second faster on the most recent lap than Ian Ford is the car up ahead, who did actually pit 5 laps earlier than him as well. So there's another spot to think about in terms of on-road. And it's not been aggressive, it's just been let a few of the cars fall off the road here and there, because this was the big battle pack a couple laps ago.
Yeah, there's nothing like being gifted a couple of spots when, someone has a little bit of drama in front of you. That's always handy, but the likes of Ian Ford up 12 spots, and like you touched on with Blake Warboys, 8 spots, that's very, very handy to have in your back pocket.
By the way, Jake Burton will continue to keep half an eye on his race. 13 spots he's now gained. That original Gaming Gear hard charger reward is going to swap a whole bunch of times throughout the proceedings here tonight, because pit strategy has been a huge, huge part of it, and Burton now leads the way just from Ian Ford. Well, Ford is only just down the way, and Blake Warboys is still in with a shout before this one is over. Drivers that are doing reasonable jobs and keeping themselves inside the top 10. Tom Freer, I actually really like keeping an eye on how he's progressed throughout the night. Started 9th, sits 9th. Be a good opportunity for him to make some points. Sits 3rd in the championship. That'll do him no harm as well. Dylan Rudd started off for the 2nd row of that grid as well. Sits 5th as it currently sits in terms of the road. So that's your championship leader.
So 20 laps to go in this one. Still plenty to play out, isn't it? And I tell you what, I've really enjoyed the differences with tyres, the strategy that people have been playing. We touched on with Madison Down how long he left it to pit. He's still outside the top 20, so I don't know that that's going to work out for him. He was battling to try and stay in the top 10, but staying out on those older tyres and everyone out on fresher tyres, it's been such a crucial gain to be on that fresh rubber.
By the way, we're only about 2 laps away from the last round of stops starting. Even split in terms of your race strategy was 19, 19, 19. Well, 19 and 19 is lap 38, and that'll be the next time by. So expect to start seeing a number of drivers start to come in, and the strategy really get a big old shake-up. There's a big old battle pack back around where Brady Baldwin is as it currently stands as well. He's got a couple cars on track in and around him. That's for 25th through 28th on the road, about 1.5 seconds through a few cars in this spot. Car ahead, Forz Nil Nami. Car behind him, Hayden Veld, and then Damien Johnson's bringing up the rear of this little pack.
been interested in the patience that Jared Filzell's shown. Usually he likes to lead these races, but he's been quite content to stay in behind his teammate of James Scott for pretty much the entire race. So they've been nose to tail for the whole night. I guess running around being a mobile billboard there for Speed Cafe, and they've got both colours there. They've both been fighting over who wants to run the black and who wants to run the white. So they've got them both on show and doing it quite easy. 2.5 second margin over Marcelo Rivera. And yeah, I think it's all going to come down to this last pit stop, and then that's when the games will be interesting between these two.
Well, I'm just thinking that in the back of my mind, he's followed Scott every lap of the race, right? Well, think about that in terms of fuel. He's not punching the hole in the air, so all of a sudden his final stop becomes that little bit quicker. Phil said was a little bit longer through the lane end to end on that last stop as well. I think in terms of pit stops, that may actually reflect itself. So that says to me he's actually got a little bit more fuel on board, and that theoretically thinks his last stop might be shorter as well. So starting to see a number of drivers come in. Scott Gamble's made it to the pit lane for his final stop of the night. He'll be trundling down towards that pit exit as it currently stands. And then, just for interesting note as well, Blake Warboys, by the way, now caught Ian Ford. So that one's going to break through and change things in just a few moments. And Jake Burton's managed to go with him. They'll be charging, I reckon, tail end of this one, they might be in with a shout of a top 10. It's going to be difficult to claw back enough margin to get in. Not impossible.
Yeah, well, depending on what everyone else has got as far as how much time they have to spend in the lane, yeah, like you said, it's going to make it juicy, but how would that be? A nice little battle for these guys trying to get into the top 10 in the dying stages of this race. That'd be an absolute ripper for us to watch.
Interesting to note as well, Tom Freer, we talked about him just a few moments ago, sitting in 9th. He's starting to take margin out of Brady Myers. He's starting to really close in on that one. The difficulty I'm looking at Tom Freer's pit stop is about 4 seconds shorter than everyone else around him, though. So he's going to lose time when this final stop comes in, which means he'll probably drop in behind Rick Kuznetsov, who sits in behind him. But yeah, he's taken margin out of Brady Myers, but he's stalled out a little bit, which means that Brady might be looking a little bit prettier on tyres over the next 5 laps or so.
And it gets to a point sometimes these drivers, they'll look after their equipment, and I'm not saying, not taking anything away from Tom, but Brady might have been looking after his stuff, and then he's seen that Tom sort of pulled him in, and then he thought, all right, well, maybe I need to step on the loud pedal again and use up what rubber I've got, because he knows that pit stops aren't too far away, so you may as well use what you've got, and obviously doesn't want to put himself in a position where Tom could maybe possibly take a dive up the inside.
That graphic that's just popped up on screen is going to solve a few questions. Briggs is in, Freeman's in, O'Shea's in, Ian Ford's in, and stops for all those drivers. And I'm just thinking about pit lane transition times as well. Andrew Gilliam was about 2 seconds longer through the lane than Marcelo Rivera, and he currently sits about 2 seconds off of him. So that's going to be really, really tight. I think Rivera's going to have to pull the undercut on that one to make sure he gets the track position, but Gilliam is looking strong. Going to be a fight on for 3rd position on the track in the dying stages of this one. Oh, and just to add into things, Gilliam's a little bit faster at the moment as well, so he can't wait too long.
Yeah, it's catch-22, isn't it? It's like, what do you do? Do you pit? Do you stay out a little bit? I think he's still...
Oh, someone's in. Dylan Rudd, I just saw in the back end of that shot, fire in. That's Dylan Rudd in the background of that one. Nice. He's in the lane, clean entry, no 40-second penalty for him. So Dylan Rudd is going to trigger the last round of stops out of our lead pack. How long do the drivers ahead of him wait? Because Gilliam had a little bit of margin in hand here. He can wait.
Yeah, but no, you don't want to leave it too long, because the pace that he's going to have on fresh tyres, this is going to give him an absolute chance to possibly make it a 1, 2, 3 for Lobs. Obviously, he didn't have the best of starts, but I love that he's rolled the dice. There's only 17 laps to go, so go on, get those fresh tyres on and make that charge.
It'll be an interesting one, and we keep an eye on the old 63 machine as she trundles through the field. I'm enjoying this from Blake Warboys. When you look at Blake and you look at his last couple of years of the series, you go, he's a mid-pack driver. He's done well. He's done average. You know, he's not really had a standout performance. I think this says to me he's on the table. And I was talking to a few of his teammates that he felt confident coming into tonight. He felt good. He felt like there was an opportunity. And for the WKMP Simsports outfit, this is their only car in the field. It's difficult to get the laps and the drivers. But at the same time, if he's the only driver in the field, all of a sudden his teammates don't have to show up tonight. They might put extra work in to help him out in the long run.
Well, all we see back there looks like the move up on the inside of Jake Burton. It's going to be side by side. Smart just gave each other a little bit of room. I don't think these guys should be too far away. I think if I was Jake Burton in the position he is, I'd probably be thinking about darting in pit lane and getting these tyres, because you don't want to give up too much ground to everyone that he was battling not too long ago. It was the likes of Ford and that, because they've already come in, they've got their fresh tyres, and he'd be giving up margin here at this stage.
Yeah, Madison Down continues to ail, but in the meantime, he's actually been taking chunks of time out of it, multiple cars around him. Remember, he was one of the last drivers to pit. Still stays attached, though, to the rear bumper of Josh Anderson. So still relevant. And here comes the leaders. Marcelo Rivera, Ethan Greekgold have just dived to the lane, so that's going to solve that equation. Gilliam's gone on another lap, as is Griffin Gardner, as is Brody Myers, Tom Ferrer, Rick Kuznetsov. So the only drivers to go for that undercut at the moment are Rivera, Greekgold, and Dylan Rudd. They had to cover him, though. You had to respond to that pit call.
Yeah, absolutely. The gain and the loss with the fresh tyre compared to old tyres, you really were going to shoot yourself in the foot if you left it too long. So Smart, cover him off and let's see what happens.
Dylan Rudd, I don't think he's going to get there. Yeah, I think he's going to pop out in behind. No, he's going to split the two ERT drivers. So he's got ahead of Ethan Greekgold, but is still behind Marcelo Rivera. So that's a net positive. That now looks to be fifth on the road for him. Good night at the office. Work to do. There is a podium still in the offering. If he can do a really, really good lap this time by, and the other problem for Ethan Greekgold is he's actually fed back in right behind Kurt Stenberg, who sits 15th on the road at the moment. And this is hurting his lap time. I tell you what, odd place to go for a move, but he has to do it for Ethan Greekgold. It's at turn 5 in the background of that shot. And that is the ERT car. Pops out ahead of the 47 machine of Kurt Stenberg.
Yeah, got the job done, like you said. Needed to get it done as quick as he could. Couldn't afford to give up any more real estate than he already has there. So thankfully cleared him, and now it's just eyes forward. But I reckon...
So Gilliam's on pit lane entry. Sorry to cut you off there, Sandman, but Gilliam's in. So he's gone, yep, can't go another lap. I've got to come in this time by. And then how about this one? We keep talking about him over the last couple of laps, but now it's Blake Warboys who gets onto the rear bumper. These two are on out laps as it currently stands. This is for effective race position. Slices to the inside of Adam Briggs. Now the next driver on the road, who also pit. Briggs, he pit a couple laps ago. My apologies. Blake Warboys now hunts down Zach Rattray White, who did pit on this lap. The next driver on the road, the number 17 machine, and then it's about 7-8 seconds up the road to Dylan O'Shea, but O'Shea did pit about 2.5 laps ago. So you know, O'Shea's going to be on older rubber at this point in time, and it's his first out lap now, Sam, and you've got to make ground now.
Yeah, it's catch-22 as you've got to push as hard as you can, but try to look after him as well. We've only got we're in the dying stages of this race now that we've got this last pit stop over and done with. But good to see that there's been some smart heads-up racing up the front. They've been covering each other off. They know they don't want to give up too much real estate. Really going to get juicy as these laps start to close out.
Keep eyes on things. Jake Burton's now into the lane, so he's the only driver that comes in on that most recent lap, and I cast my eyes back up towards the top end of things. Where did Gilliam feed out? Well, Gilliam split Rivera and Rudd, so Marcelo Rivera did get out with third place, but that is the racing margin. It's going to be a stoush for the last spot on the podium, and it's going to be between Marcelo Rivera and Andrew Gilliam.
How good is this going to get as these laps go on? And now, of course, they're coming up to a little bit of traffic. I say it's for position at the moment, but obviously all the pit stops haven't played out yet. So the drivers that they're coming up on, they don't have to move out of the way, even though essentially there's different strategies between them. So this is going to get interesting as they can't start to catch on to the back of these TTR cars.
Yeah, it's Madison Down will be the first one they have to try and navigate. And Rivera's just about there. It's going to be a go for that spot in the final corner, but he's got to run here. He's going to catch him before he gets to the last corner, which means he's going to lose momentum. He's nearly onto the back bumper right now. This is the tricky piece of the race. He's going to find out in there. I get the feeling Down might peel off, go to the lane. He did go to the lane. So did the next car on the road is Josh Anderson as well. So Rivera's lost a little bit of time now. That's checked him up. That's checked some momentum. And Andrew Gilliam, we are going to get ourselves a 15-lap stoush for third spot on the podium.
Yeah, they got really lucky that the TTR cars peeled off, because obviously they didn't have to move out of the way, so that was going to be crucial. But thankfully they made their pit stop, and these guys have got free rein now. They don't have to worry about any other cars around them. But what is going to happen here between these two is what Dylan Rudd wants to see these guys is start battling, because he wants to see them start slowing each other up so he can hopefully be brought into the fold.
Yeah, and sector times on this lap will be the first opportunity we get to see all three of these guys go toe-to-toe. And I tell you what, Andrew Gilliam got a really, really nice apex at turn 5, but it was the momentum on the outside. Rivera flowed off the corner better. In terms of point and shoot, what are they both like in terms of straight line poke? Gilliam's going to send it down to the inside. He's deep. He has a wiggle, but he got there. Andrew Gilliam slices through, sits third on the road effectively at this point in time. And the Vermilion Motorsports guys will start clapping their hands together because now they feel they've got a bit of confidence under their wing.
Yeah, I think he'll probably start to pull away from what we can see there. I see this little battle here with Stenberg as well. So these guys just having a little bit side by side, managed to give it up there. But yeah, it was crucial that he got past Marcelo because what they didn't want to do is start fighting and bring Dylan Rudd into the game. So now I think you'll probably see he'll probably start to pull away. That car looks really good.
And we did get an update from the ERT guys as well earlier on, and that was when Marcelo let the two Speed Cafe Lobs Esports cars by. Yep, there's no point in fighting that one. We're focused on getting a podium. Well, that's just slipped through his fingers. Now he's got to respond. But now, does he flip the switch? Does he go, okay, I'm going to cool it off. I'm going to look after the rubber. I think I can deal with Gilliam. In about 5 to 8 laps time, I'll start to come back towards him. That's where my strength will be.
I love that when drivers can do that, they can actually have that mindset to say, you know what, let's look after this, give up some real estate and attack later. Man, if he can pull that off, that would be A1. That'd be terrific.
Well, Tom Freya and Jacob O'Reilly both come to the pit lane for their final stops of the night. And O'Reilly's in and out, as is Tom Freya now. It'd be interesting to see where Freya says. That's a very short pit stop from Jacob O'Reilly. Did he take a massive stop earlier? I don't think he did. So, in the meantime, where's he going to feed back out in on the outside as they currently sit? And in the background of that shot is what we're kind of looking at. Was Jake O'Reilly. Yeah, it was a very, very quick stop for Jake O'Reilly.
Trying to see if there's anyone else who we've got pit stops. I think that's pretty much the field by the looks of it. So, it looks like Jared Fieldcell's managed to... Is that Scott's in the pits? What's happened there?
So they've split strategy. Fieldcell's gone the extra lap.
Oh, man, sorry. I total brain fade and thinking that they'd already made their pit stop. So, yes, so there you go. And you touched on it before, didn't you, when you said that Fieldcell was there. He's obviously saving a little bit of fuel, so he could obviously go that little bit longer. But I think that tyre advantage, you'd absolutely see Jared Fieldcell in the next lap, only because of the difference in rubber.
Yeah, maybe. It could be a shorter stop. We just don't know until we can posture. We can think about, oh, there's contact with a TCR car. And that was just in the background of that shot. It's Adam Briggs. Oh, man, he's been... at this rate, he might just take up in-race penalty because that's how much he's been hit tonight.
More hits than Elvis, as the old saying goes. But, yeah, didn't get to see the whole incident. So, here we go. As we check out the original Game Gear replay. Down.
Was it Madison down? It was Madison down.
Yeah. Making the move up the inside. Oh, just that little touch in the rear there. Yeah, that's tricky. I'd probably want to give that spot back.
Yeah, I mean, he's kicked on with it, so that's not going to happen anymore. And I'll tell you what, Jordan Ross has fed out in the middle of them, so that is absolutely not going to happen anymore. But in the meantime, it's going to be a three-way stoush between the TCR drivers. It's Josh Anderson who leads the way on this little battle pack from Jake Burton and Madison down. And then Jordan Ross next on the road before Adams Briggs, who had that contact as well. And Scott Gamble. This is going to be a tricky little situation. When was the last time you said Madison down on pace just inside the top 20?
Yeah, it's few and far between, isn't it? You can see the battle with James Scott. He's just come out in front of Gilliam. So now we're waiting for Fieldcell. He's now in the lane. He's serving his pit stop. So it's going to be very close on exit. Is he going to be able to hold off? I think James may just pip him, but depending on how quick Jared's pit stop is. James Scott coming out of the last corner. Jared's still in the lane.
I reckon Gilliam's going to get him. I reckon Gilliam's going to clip him here because that's how much the fresh tyres are worth. Here they come to turn 1. It's the start of lap number 46. He does feed in there just. Now he looks for the crossover. That's a supreme move. No, you don't do that. That's absurd. Jared Fieldcell. He's played second fiddle all night. Now he's his race leader.
That was an awesome move. Coming out of the pits, he had the undercut, got the job done on his teammate James Scott, and now you'll just see him disappear into the distance. What an awesome move out of the pit lane.
No! Sammy, you don't do what?
Watch this. This is a very, very cool move. He's on the power. He's obviously coming from the outside. He turns in, gets the undercut, floors it, and gets the position.
Can we go on board? I've got to see what his cockpit shot looked like. He's going to be millimetres from grazing the 088 machine, which would have turned him, and he'd cop a penalty for that as well. So you've got to think about that. Oh, perfect. No, he slid that in. Oh.
That was awesome. Well done, Jared Filsell. Well done.
Like a glove, like an original Gamer Gear glove, which he got for the Hard Charge reward last round. Oh.
That was a brilliant move, but I think that's pretty much going to determine the rest of this race. We've seen that Jared's been patient all night. He's been quite content just to sit behind his teammate and James Scott, but now he's got that job done. He's starting to open up that little bit of margin. He's got that one lap of fresher tyres now, and I think it's not going to be too much arguing between these two. And I guess now we concentrate on possibly the battle for third and that last step on the podium.
I'm really, really interested to keep half an eye on Dylan Rudd's pace as well. He is 2.5 seconds back, granted, as it currently stands, but he's got reasonable pace. He's matching these guys ahead of him, and he did come to the pits a little bit earlier, lost a little bit of time on that lap to Gilliam, but he matched Rivera. So there's still opportunity for Dylan Rudd in this thing, and by the way, next time by, 10 laps to go. We're going to have 45 Ks or so left in this race, and that's a lot of time around this place for something to go wrong.
Thankfully, the safety car hasn't made things difficult for some of these drivers. No one's been gifted a win like it happens in Formula One, but at the end of the day, it's been a good, hard battle for these guys, and we can see it's still happening throughout the grid.
Oh, it's still on. Now down to the inside, and I get the feeling that might have been the 17 machine of Rattray White, who was squabbling for something on the road, and indeed it was. Yeah, it was Josh Anderson and Zach Rattray White who were going toe-to-toe. And that's interesting because Anderson's actually got the fresher tyres on board as it currently stands. So he's sitting in a really sort of pretty spot for pace in this last stint, but he's not making the inroads. But have a look at the attitude of the Rattray White machine. The Vermilion Sim Sport's doing okay on the rear bumper of that car up ahead. There was a little bit of squabbling in the rear tyres. They're not the biggest fans of Zach Rattray White at the moment.
That's right. And look at the marbles just on the exit. We just saw from that camera view that fair bit of marbles on this racetrack. We touched on how crucial the tyre wear is, but thankfully that hasn't come into play where there hasn't been too much side-by-side racing and no one's been off into the marbles. That can really start to be an issue, but thankfully as this race goes on, looks like everyone's pretty much line astern and they're just sort of weighing up what they've got for each other as we come into the start to lap 48.
I'm really interested to see how Brady, because he's the best of the TCR cars. He didn't have the one lap pace earlier on the piece, but he's got the race pace and he's still there, he's still relevant. Tom Freer's not out of this one, by the way. He did have that longer final stop, but his pace looks good. He actually took half a second out of these guys on the last lap, by the way. So Freer's going to buy into this battle pack, and that's good points for him, considering where he stands on the championship table. Oh, and by the way, Hobbo won't be too upset with me. He sits 11th on the road, so he's had another very quiet night at the office.
Oh, mate, it's not lap 57 yet, Tiger. Be careful.
Does someone just want to reach on over there and press the power button on Hobbo's computer?
But yeah, you're right. So he's up 4 spots there. Yeah, hopefully you haven't put the Mazda on him, mate, because he'll come and find you.
In the meantime, there's been a bad sportsmanship flag shown in the number 6 car of Thomas Freeman, so there was a little bit of discussion. There was an issue with Brady Bourne and him for moving on the brakes, and stewards went, yeah, not enough in. Oh, while they're into each other! What a time to cross to them!
Yeah, thankfully gathered that up, and it didn't get any uglier than it was going to be. But that could have been huge. But thankfully gathered it up.
Oh, it's not over. Thomas Freeman's not happy with it, by the way, so there'll be more debate on that one. But to finish that thought, yeah, Thomas Freeman gets himself a bad sportsmanship flag for moving on the brakes. Not enough for a penalty, but enough to say, hey, no more of that.
This is where you've got to try and keep your cool. It's easy to get frustrated in these races, but when you start there, you start getting a bit hot under the collar, you're flashing your lights, at the end of the day, what he needs to do is just reset, calm down, and just have another crack at him. There's still time in this race where he can get the job done.
Did I catch another flash of the lights there as well? Because it was still on, so you still tell more of the story. And I was wondering what went on between these two. So it was when they got down to turn 1 and 2, and Baldwin's chasing him down the straight, looking for a little bit of drive. All right, you're going to defend? No problem. That's fine. You move back to the racing line. There's your one move. Gets to the inside, and Baldwin's far enough up alongside, but not quite clear. Squeezes him. Good response. Yep.
Yeah, that was just that little bit of nose to tail that we got to when we went back to live pictures. So
not happy with each other out on track, but the stewards won't do too much more with that. They'll probably just say, all right, that's enough of that. No more of that, but there's nothing to give a penalty for right there. Keep an update for you as well. Tom Freer is still taking margin out of the cars that are actually ahead of him on the road. By the way, Brady Myers is down the inside, down at turn number 6, and he is squabbling with Rick Kuznetsov, and we've seen this. The outside line might be the preferred turn-in point. You'll get the momentum, but Myers has got no grip on the front end of that car. He nearly ended up in a gravel trap, and here comes Kuznetsov back to the inside. When he got off the outside of 6, I thought that's probably it. Myers might get this one here. It's not over, and now the 707 tags into the fray. 3 big teams in Australian motorsports. Vermilion Sim Sports plays Trans-Tasman plays Synergy. This is going to be a stoush for the ages.
Something we don't see often. It's on screen too with that 5-second penalty for Madison Down. We caught that action where I sort of doubted that he probably should have given that spot back. I guess the officials agree, and unfortunately got himself a 5-second penalty. So for a night that hasn't been ideal for Madison Down, it's just got that little bit worse for him.
And now it's going to be interesting to keep an eye on this one as it continues on. Have a look at that margin. That was actually a really, really interesting number. He's copped 5 seconds for it as Madison Down. The margin between them, 2.5 seconds. If he'd have redressed, he'd be ahead.
Yeah, that's right. And it's always a huge shout out to anyone who readdresses. I guess it's you get caught up in the moment, and sometimes you think, obviously there's two different opinions when these drivers are having a red hot go. But when I see drivers that readdress, I reckon that's pretty smart heads up driving, because you lose so much less time if you just readdress and try to push on. But unfortunately, he's got that penalty. He'll take it on the chin, and that'll be added at the end of the race for him, for Madison Down.
Yeah, they'll probably talk about it. I will say Adam Briggs is a funny character. He is a real larrikin when it comes to things. He's got a lot of energy, a lot of personality, a lot of pizzazz, and a lot of Briggsy about him. That's probably the only word you can really use to describe Adam Briggs. And you'll have a word to Madison Down about it after the race. Hey, man, there was a little bit in that. Oh, yeah, play on. All right, I apologise. Sorry, boys, move on. And Madison Down's the same way. Yep, my bad, move on.
Yeah.
This battle, I think this is going to be where we'll situate our eyes. How's the drive, though, from Griffin Gardner? He sort of went missing a little bit over the last couple of rounds, but he sits 7th on the road. Happy night for him. Remember what we were talking about a few laps ago as well? Gilliam's starting to ail. I reckon he did burn those tyres off, Sandman.
Yeah, so he's just, Marcelo's just sort of said, all right, now it's take 2. Let's see what he's got for him, if he can put that pressure on him. I'm just trying to watch the attitude of these cars as we go on board. This will give us a fair indication of probably who's got what. But they find themselves here battling for the last step on the podium. They don't have to worry about those two up front. It's now between these guys. And what they don't want to do is start tripping over themselves and bringing Dylan Rudd into the fold. But I think what you said, where Marcelo was just going to back off a little bit and look after his gear, I think possibly that's what he's done. And we're going to see how this all unfolds over the next few laps.
Yeah, it takes a quick driver to win a race. It takes a brilliant driver to win races as well. Sometimes you don't do it in terms of out and out raw speed. Sometimes it's a little bit of outfoxing, but you can just see it at the apex of the corner. Rivera was there. He was in that shot. He was starting to be able to smell the exhaust fumes coming off the Mustang ahead of him. And for Andrew Gilliam, we were talking about vulnerable species early in the race that might have been Madison Down. Well, I can tell you, my wife's a zookeeper. If she was out here with her binoculars right now, Andrew Gilliam in her sights might need to get the old protected species logo out.
And the one thing that I like what Marcelo's doing is just putting that pressure on him too. It's just letting him know that you're there. You know, he may not be thinking about making that move, but if he can just edge just that little bit closer, it gets Andrew Gilliam looking in his rearview mirrors because he doesn't want to leave a door open. But if he can get him looking and moving around in that mirror, that could distract him just that little bit.
And I'll put something in the back of your mind, something just to think about, is Andrew Gilliam and Marcelo Rivera controversial sometimes with some of the things they do on track is the way to think about them. But I like that. That's a driver I can look at. That's a driver I can write a story about. That's a driver I can ask questions to and talk about any day of the week. And sometimes you don't like them. Sometimes you don't like to be around them on track. Well, they'll both be thinking that at the moment. How about Kurt Stenberg? He's getting a few check-ins here tonight.
Yeah, Stenny is obviously a little bit further back than he'd obviously enjoy. Back in 25th position, but yeah, it's the whole fold of TTR, isn't it? We've touched on that throughout the night. It's strange to see all the cars struggling, but yeah, Stenny's got a nice straight race car. They won't have to do much to that. They'll run a rag over it and get it ready for the next round and put a decent setup under it, no doubt.
Yeah, and this battle pack just never goes away. There's always a bunch of cars together each other in the teens, isn't there, Sandman? It's just a staple of supercars racing. You'll have 6, 7, 8, sometimes 10, sometimes 20 cars all together in the early phases of the race. But as the race winds down, it's this group in the latter stages of the night that tends to provide some of the better racing, and it's turned it on yet again.
And this battle that we can't stop looking at too between Rick Kovetsov, Brady Myers and Tom Freer, and they're all battling just for those last couple of spots inside the top 10. And we say it each and every week, it doesn't matter where the battles are on track, whether you're racing for first or last. The battles up and down throughout the field are all brilliant.
I wonder whether or not there's been some more hullabaloo in terms of this battle pack as well. This is another original Game of Gear replay coming your way on the run into turn 6. That's a driver that says to me he's got a slowdown penalty potentially for coming off a turn 5. He's looking to cover that one off, cleared it, then got back on with the job, or had to cover it. And I'm looking at it, and I could not tell you which.
I don't know if he gave up. Yeah, he would have. I think he would have lost a lot more time if he was given up. If he had to give up some track time, but yeah, who knows? But they're still in it. They're all still there.
And the tricky thing about that corner as well is covering to the inside actually costs you a lot of time in terms of drive off the exit. In the meantime, further back in the background, Jordan Ross is going to go toe-to-toe with Zach Rattray White. He got drive off the last corner, but Rattray White back to the inside. Don't forget, turn 2. She's a right-hander. Ross doesn't get clear. Rattray White gets in on the anchors very, very deep. Now he starts to wash. The car rotates nicely at the middle of the corner. And now Jordan Ross gets there. But there was a wiggle from Rattray White. Now Jake Burton sneaks through.
Oh, I wonder if there was a slight little bit of contact there, but there was obviously that wiggle, so that was very, very close, and Jake obviously had the best seat in the house again. I think last time we rode on board with him there was cars that got together, so interesting that it's opened up for him, so he's managed to get that spot done. So go back and check this replay. Was there contact?
Well, keep an eye on it. Down under the bridge at turn 2. And again, Jake Burton. Does someone just want to hand Jake Burton a camera every week and get him to watch the action? Oh, no contact there.
No, it was just a little wiggle. But Jake loves it. He's gone, thank you very much. I'll take that spot.
I might have a chat to him midweek and say, hey, Jake Burton, how do you feel about your life in broadcasting? Because you seem to carry a camera with you everywhere. But back up in, I think that Tom Freer, Brady Myers, Rick Kuznetsov battle's worth keeping our eyes on. As they come to the line, there'll be 4 more laps left to run. We are running out of real estate. We're under 20 kilometres left to go now. It'll be down to 16. The tyres have had enough. Who's got some rubber left to burn? Oh, and by the way, don't forget that we're going to have that exciting battle to come for 3rd place as well. And again, Rivera gets these deep in. Didn't quite get the car rotated initially. And Gilliam's really good on the mid-corner and the drive off there. I think that's what's protecting him.
Well, that's where I want to be. I want to be strong mid-corner and exit because, you know, you can cover on entry, but if you've got that speed and that grip on exit, yeah, that obviously helps to get that margin. Just to open up that little bit so you're not a little bit less vulnerable. Oh, it's got interesting here. Oh, these two are still having a crack. This is going on as they make a run to the start-finish line.
I don't know if you saw the stoush that went on in NASCAR over their All-Star weekend, but there was 2 drivers that didn't like each other. And get the feeling Thomas Freeman and Brady Baldwin are keen to see the end of each other as Robbie Gibbs now gets the opportunity to be the camera operator in this one. And Freeman's got back by him. And the problem I would say for Brady Baldwin is when you're a dirt track driver, you like a lot of altitude in the rear end of your car, but in a V8 supercar, you kind of need that grip underneath you.
Yeah, rear tyres don't really like that sort of abuse, do they? They tend to give up fairly quickly and overheat. So this battle is far from over, but neither is this one. Look at these two guys battling out as we are on lap 55 of 57. Ian Ford and Forsen and Arby. It doesn't matter if it's for first or last. We said that earlier. This is a battle for 23rd.
Ian Ford was the driver that went for the undercut. He didn't quite get the car rotated. Forsen, again, good rotation, middle to exit. But he just couldn't quite get back to the power. You can see the dirty air effect on that Forsen El Nabi car. He's just struggling in that latter half of the corner to get the car to pivot. Oh, he's good on the brakes, though. That car is really, really good on the brakes for Forsen. And drive off the final corner once again. So, as they come to the start-finish line this time by, there'll be 3 more circuits. Next time will be under 10 laps left to run. Oh, and by the way, if you thought Jared Filson might have been sitting back and just holding back and biding his time all night, he's got a 3-second lead as soon as he's got to the front. He's disappearing.
Yeah, he was, like I said, I think he was quite content just to sit behind his teammate, and I think he had a fair bit under his bonnet. It's fast lap.
And this is the battle pack again that doesn't seem to go away for 8th spot on the road. And Kuznetsov is in the lead of this pack and has been for a fair while, but Tom Freer started to really harass and really harangue the 22 machine. Brady Myers is in trouble now. He's been trying to apply pressure to Rick Kuznetsov, and now he's getting the afterburners lit underneath him. Can you feel the temperature start to rise if you're Brady Myers? Oh, the track's cooled off a little bit, but I think it's gone up in that cockpit.
Yeah, I wonder if Brady Myers was trying to make a move on Rick, and just as I say that, we go to the original Game of Gear replay. Again, he's got the decent exit. It looks like it's going to be, it might be a case of deja vu, I think, if we check out this replay.
Yep, so Kuznetsov covers the inside. Brady gets in hot, very, very hot. Pinch the front brakes.
On the marbles.
But got it pulled up, more credit to him, and hung on to the spot. So I get the feeling if Freer could get by Myers, I don't think Kuznetsov would be too much of it. I think Kuznetsov's the cork in the bottle here for these guys.
Yeah, I think the only thing that they've got against him now is that we're running out of laps, lap 56 or 57. So these guys having a red hot go, trying to get whatever positions they can. Every point counts as this championship goes on. You may be looking back on this round one day and just thinking, man, if I'd got that position, it could be a totally different story at the end of the year. But and here's this battle that you've been keeping a close eye on with Blake Werboys. In 14th, got his hands full there. Josh Anderson now all over the back of him. Into the dying stages. Is he going to be able to hold on?
So it looks like the CTR cars with the lower fuel in them have actually come to life a little bit. And the thing is, when you run it long, you've got less fuel in the car when you strap those new tyres on. So you don't put as much heat through them. You don't wear them anywhere near as much. Here comes Ando to the outside. And in that garage, they call it a little bit of Ando steer when you got understeer. And there was a whole dose of Ando steer right there.
Yeah, you can see Blake was he was onto it straight away. He was sort of covering the inside there, and unfortunately he had to try around the outside. Didn't quite get the job done. Lost a little bit of traction on exit, but he'll fight to live another day as we start our last lap for Jared Filsell.
Yep, it's been a significant final stint for Jared Filsell. One move to define the race. He would have liked it a little bit easier if he could have got that car wound up off the grid. Didn't go that way, but he's still got to the front end of town. In the meantime, Gilliam and Rivera are still going to stoush on this last lap. There'll be 4 kilometres to decide it between them, but you get the feeling Rivera's too far back. In the meantime, though, Brady Myers is asking questions of Rick Kuznetsov. If you think you're a championship hopeful, Rick, time to come to the party. You're going to have to hold off from Brady Myers on the final lap, and now Freer's going to buy into this one as well. And he checked him up at turn 1. Myers looking for traction, didn't find any of it off turn 2. They'll come to 3, through 3, now to 4. The flick to the left-hand side, but it's about being in the right position, about rotating the car. It's about the setup up of 5. What do you see, Stan, man?
Oh, he's just trying his absolute best. Needs to get a run out of here. It's going to be a drag race, and who can be brave under brakes, but you don't want to do anything silly on the last lap. It's going to come down to this last little chance. He's probably a little bit too far to make the advantage. He's going to try again around the outside.
Oh, he's pitched it.
Great move. Locked them all up. Lucky he didn't drill the back of him. That would have been disastrous. But he's going to lose a spot, possibly. It's going to be side by side going through the corner. Oh, a little bit of real estate on the outside. Thank you very much.
Well, you thought the rear tyres were screaming if your name's Brady Myers. Sorry, my apologies. It's screaming in the fronts now as well. And he's got half a lap. But in the meantime, he lights them up. Phil Sell will come to the line and pick it up. It's been a win for him. Oh, and by the way, there's been contact between Freer and Myers. So that'll decide that one. Who finishes their car and their night on the podium? It's going to be Andrew Gilliam. But what's on for Myers and Freer in the final lap as well?
Wow, battle's coming right down to the wire. Like you said, third place has been decided for Gilliam, and now these guys just try to hold on the last little corner. Can Myers hold on? Humphrey is going to have a last crack. Not quite close enough, but man, oh man, what a race. Absolute cracker here at Jerez. The supercars, this has been absolutely brilliant. These guys still having this last-ditch effort as they make the run to the checkered flag.
Yeah, Dylan O'Shea is going to come home 13th. Blake Warboys will be 14th. Josh Anderson and Madison down in the next few on the road. Jordan Ross from Jake Burton in 18th. And Zach Rattray White, man, I tell you what, he's going to battle on his hands with Adam Briggs. And those two traded blows throughout the race as well. Gamble will get home just outside of the top 20, just ahead of Sean McNamara. And that'll be the two teammates there from 9.5 Sim Sports. And then Bo Albert ahead of Damian Johnson as well. And Bo will look at that one and go, man, my night was not easy tonight.
Yeah, well, I still haven't. Look at these guys just hanging it out. Absolutely just enjoying themselves. I think there's going to be a lot of drivers here that are going to be thankful that this race is over and done with, because some people have had absolute rippers, but there's some drivers that have had absolute shockers.
Yeah, and these boys are just enjoying a night at the office at this point in time. Yeah, can't pick up a spot, can't lose a spot. And that's mates too, because that's what sim racing's all about. They're putting on an expression session, and there'll be some drivers in the field that look at that and go, oh, well, you're taking something away. That's guys having fun. That's guys enjoying their night.
They've had, obviously their night hasn't gone as well as they would have. Not like this bloke on screen, Jared Philsell. Absolute textbook from Jared, wasn't it, tonight? I mean, all from the Lobs cars, they all had decent pace, and Jared was very patient and then had a very cool manoeuvre on the exit of pit lane to grab the lead, and he opened up that margin and finished with a 2.5 second win.
Yeah, I mean, if something defines the night, it was that move out the exit of pit lane. And I said midweek, look, James Scott's been really, really quick in qualifying trim, but Jared Philsell so good in terms of race. Well, it flip-flopped, and I looked at the qualifying results and I went, hang on, maybe it's the other way around here tonight. No, Philsell still put on another clinic. Andrew Gilliam, really happy with that result for him, and he will be chuffed with that one as well. I said earlier on in the season, needed to prove things out of Vermilion Motorsports outfit. Well, that's it. They proved me wrong. Hey, I like eating my words when you drive like that as well. Rivera puts on a phenomenal drive as well, home in 4th. And championship leader Dylan Rudd, he's going to put a few points on Rick Kuznetsov tonight and extend that margin out. And he doesn't lose a boatload of points to Jared Philsell and James Scott. That's the key. When we look back at Jerez, if Dylan Rudd wins this championship, you go tire burner of a night, did a good job, stuck it in there at the end, top 5, I'll take that.
Absolutely, and you mentioned it throughout that broadcast. If you haven't got a race car that's good enough for first or second, evaluate what your race car is good. If you're only a top 5 car, then bring it home in top 5, because it will reward you come season end. Yeah,
and Ethan Griegold on the podium last time out, not to be tonight. Good return to form for Griffin Gardner as well, with the first of the 9.5 Simsport cars home. Kuznetsov, not his best night at the office, but hey, still a top 10. There's still points on the table. He's still going to be in contention when we head out to Watkins Glen next time out as well. Brady Myers from Tom Freer round out your top 10. How good was that battle pack to round out our top 10 as well? We'll throw it over the page, and it'll be Brenton Hobson sits 10th in the championship. 11th on the road. That'll put points in the right direction for him, so he'll be really happy with that. Jacob O'Reilly from Dylan O'Shea. Blake Warboys, whoa, that was an interesting drive to keep our eyes on all night long. Josh Anderson from Madison Down. Jordan Ross home in 17th. An average night at the office. Started 17th, finished 17th. Jake Burton improved 11 spots from 29th to 18th. Zach Rattray White 19th, and Adam Briggs rounds out your 20. We'll throw it over the page to the drivers up to 30th spot, and be Scott Gamble ahead of team boss Sean McNamara. Difficult night at the office for those guys. Don't know how they'll be thinking about that one. Be really, really interested to get their thoughts. Forznil Nabi home in 23rd ahead of Stenberg. Bo Albert 25th, Damien Johnson, Thomas Freeman and Brady Board will be staring daggers at each other. And I don't think there'll be words lost between those two guys. It'd be really interesting to be a fly on the wall when that discussion happens. Andre Yusuf from Robbie Gibbs, Matty Bowler and Hayden Veld, the last two drivers home on the lead lap. They destroyed their tyres. Well, they didn't need them anymore. They had fun at least. Ian Ford, first driver off the lead lap. And that will be the last of the finishes, by the way, and the guys to receive points. That's how bad the Knights of Brian Borg, Teo Sorono, Michael Whiting and Jake Maloney. By the way, I think we're just hearing Ian Ford may yet still to cross the finish line, and he's still trundling out on track as it currently stands.
Oh, no. He's out of fuel.
I don't know if he's crossed the line and this is the cooldown lap.
No.
I think this is still eligible in terms of fuel.
So what we're seeing, these are live pictures.
So I think what's happening at the moment is it's counting him at one lap down. So that's what we're paging through the results as it currently stands. So it's counting him as one lap down because the time to get back to the start finish line has expired, and he only completed 56 laps. He's on his 57th.
Yeah, when I saw that shot, I wasn't sure that was a live shot or if it was a slow-mo replay. But unfortunately, that was a live shot, so it didn't actually take the checkered flag, unfortunately. So a bit of bad luck there for Ian Ford.
That's an interesting end to the race as well. It always never fails to put up something interesting at the tail end of the race. I just didn't expect it to be that. But Sam, man, I tell you what, who do you want to chat to? Do you want to start us off with the bottom end of the podium with Andrew Gilliam? Because I tell you what, that's a good drive from him. I'm really keen to get his thoughts.
So we just wait for him to come into the commentary box. Andrew Gilliam, congratulations, mate. That was a heck of a battle in those dying stages between you and Marcelo. Tell us a little bit about how your night unfolded.
Oh, man. First of all, I'm absolutely wrecked. The concentration required to teeter a supercar on like 56-degree track temps for 57 laps. Oh, boy. But no, that was a really good race. The first two stints were giga. Massive shout out to Curtis Bird, my engineer for tonight. He got me into a beautiful gap every time. We had no fuel across the line. Like, he did a sensational job for me. And yeah, the setup definitely took care of its tires, and I think I got a bit excited in that last stint, so a bit of driving myself to work on. Just dealing with pressure probably a bit better, but yeah, I'm super happy with how the night went.
Mate, you held on at the end of the day, and it was a heck of a battle. It was great to watch that battle between you and Marcelo, but it's always a pressure cooker when you're in the driver's seat and you've got someone just putting that pressure on you as those laps start to wind off.
Yeah, it was already a pressure cooker just staying on the track. And then, you know, you've got a very, very fast Marcelo chasing you down too.
So your thoughts coming into tonight, were you excited about this racetrack? Were you nervous? I mean, we were talking about how tyre wear was going to play a bit of a deal, and then obviously you spoke about the track temperatures that we had to deal with throughout the night. But leading into this, was it a bogey racetrack for you, or were you looking forward to it?
No, I was looking forward to it. I do think I can preserve tyres quite well in the supercar, so I did think this should be a strong race for me, especially with the temperatures. So yeah, preparation was fantastic. All the Vermilion boys, heaps of laps this week. So yeah, no, I was genuinely confident we'd get a result tonight.
We can hear it in your voice, mate. You're stoked with P3. Well done. Before we let you go, is there anyone you want to thank?
Yeah, I'll just love to thank all the Vermilion boys. Like, big effort during the week. Getting tricky setups, both quali and race styled, and then big shout out to our sponsors as well, Doing OK, Burb Designs, Supernova Motorsports, Hymo Setups, and make sure you check out Vermilion X Coaching as well.
Mate, just before I let you go, I do actually want to chime in. I was critical at the start of the year of this move to Vermilion Motorsports, mate. I've eaten my words. Well done. Thank
you. No, it has been a sensational season so far. I'm really happy. I'm loving the new team.
Mate, congratulations from both of us. I think that's a brilliant drive. Love that.
Absolutely. Well done.
Thank you very much, guys. Cheers for your efforts with RC, and stream as well. Thank you very much, guys.
There you have it, Scotty. A great drive for him for P3, and I believe you've caught up with our second place driver, James Scott.
Mate, Scotty, look, we talked about you on the grid. It was an interesting drive. You were sitting there going, you know, I've got to survive through lap number 1. I've got to look after the tyres, got to look after the car. But when the drivers around you didn't get the best of starts, you go, hang on, we're on here. We got track position. Everything might unfold my way.
Yeah, usually I'm the one doing the burnout, so no, it's good to get a good start. Yeah, shame about the others. I think Dylan went quite a long way back, and he had really good speed, so it was, real shame for him. Jared, you obviously got some wheel spin, but only seemed to lose. I think it was one spot, and got that back pretty quickly. So yeah, no, it's good to get a clean start and lead for a bit. But yeah, Jared was doing a lot of fuel saving, and just I don't know, I just felt like a little bit out of sync in the race. I don't know, I was driving okay, but wasn't quite where I needed to be.
It's very difficult to follow around here. Were you worried? Obviously, you said Jared was definitely doing some fuel saving, get the opportunity to do that behind you, but when he can stay that close to you, it's not close enough to get the job done, but you go, if he can follow that close to me, I think I'm in trouble.
Yeah, no, it is difficult to follow, but you know, not impossible. I was behind one of the RT cars, I think Marcelo, for a few laps, and yeah, it was difficult to follow, but more difficult to pass. So yeah, no, it's a tough track for all that stuff, but yeah, no, he was definitely very fast.
Mate, in terms of things, it's going to be tight in terms of the championship fight. You and Jared seem to swap places each and every round, man. It's a long season, but that margin's being eaten into. Is there a race that you've really got in your mind? I've got to be on my best here. This is a challenging track. Was it tonight at Jerez? Because we just talked to Andrew Gilliam. He said this was a tough one. This was a really difficult race to get right.
Yeah, I think you probably hit the nail on the head there. I didn't really know what to expect coming into this round. As I said, sort of pre-race, not many people have done any competitive supercar racing around here, so, and I was definitely in that boat, so I didn't really know what to expect, whether I was on the pace, I was half a second slower, I didn't really know, just sort of focus on ourselves and make sure we're as fast as we can, which turned out to be good enough for the team. But yeah, I don't know, we'll have to look at the calendar. I think there's a few tracks coming up where, you know, we've raced at before, so we should have a good starting point for the setup at those tracks. But yeah, no, it was probably this round, but you know, obviously the Enduros, there's a lot of points there as well. So just take each race that comes and see where we end up.
Mate, finally, floor's all yours. Thank all the sponsors. Or I think we might have Jared Filson might actually be able to hear us at the moment. But do you want to throw him under the bus, make him do all the sponsor shout outs, or?
I'll just give a quick shout out to Speed Cafe, Ryko, Hybrid Racing Simulations, all the guys at Lobs, Jared, Shane, Dylan, Brad, Anton, all those guys helping out, spotting every week. It's really appreciated by all those guys and couldn't do without them. And you guys for the broadcast and the series admin race control guys as well. So thanks to all those guys.
Mate, you give a guy a chance to rough up his teammate, they take it with both hands, but you've been supreme. So I guess it's on over to Sandman to talk to tonight's race winner.
There we go. Got Jared Filson. Congratulations, Jared. Heck of a battle between you and James. Looked like you were pretty content just to sit there and let the race play out until the dying stages. Was that the case?
Yeah, he had the tow rope out, so I was just getting dragged along there. So yeah, it's a difficult one. I don't know, I probably felt like I probably had a little bit better pace, but I mean it is what it is. We're bound to tow each other in one race, and they'll get the leg up, vice versa. So just happened to be this race, it was his turn, but I'm sure we'll repay the favour if I have to lead for whatever race that comes next.
Yeah, the start wasn't the best. Obviously, you know, there was your teammate as well struggled, but it wasn't the end of the night for you. But that you probably would have been kicking yourself a little bit. But at the end of the day, you still managed to, like you said, grab onto that tow rope and hold on for P2 towards the start of that race.
Yeah, it wasn't the greatest. Unfortunately, Luke couldn't race tonight, so he must have cursed us with the burnout off the start, because that's all he seems to do in these races. So yeah, thanks Luke. yeah, it wasn't great. I just tried to be as patient as possible and not put my boot in it and think it's going to make it go quicker when it definitely doesn't. So yeah, I was lucky to only lose the spots to James and Marcelo there. It's unfortunate for Dylan because yeah, I honestly think it could have been a podium lockout tonight, to be honest, because his pace was really good as well. So there wasn't really much splitting us three. Even Luke, to be honest, it was unfortunate he couldn't make it tonight. Late change of plans. So yeah, it's unfortunate.
And we can't let you go without talking about that pass for the lead. Straight out of pit lane, dive up the inside of your teammate and get the job done. That was pretty impressive.
Yeah, I didn't want to sit behind him for too long because I'd lose my tyre advantage. So it was, I haven't actually looked at it, but it would have been pretty close to getting an unsafe pit exit. So high risk, but yeah, got the job done.
Mate, it was good to watch, and like you touched on, all the Lobs cars were pretty good this week, and you know, you could see it throughout all the cars. You'd be pretty happy with tonight's result, no doubt, but now we look forward to next week, or the next round, I should say.
Yep, you'd have to refresh my memory. I have no idea what round's next, unfortunately.
Everyone's going to have to refresh my memory too.
Watkins Glen.
Watkins Glen, there you go.
Okay, yep, we need to redeem ourselves from last year. That was a absolute howler, unfortunately. So, nah, we'll definitely go back to the drawing board with the strategy book for that round. That was one that definitely got away from us. But we had a strong car there last year, so hopefully we can just pick up from where we left off and possibly tune her up again and try and eke out some more time, because it's definitely going to be a tough race with all the draft and whatnot. It's definitely won't be splitting the pack up like it was tonight.
Well, congratulations, mate. It was a great race to watch. You got the job done. Before we let you go, any thanks that you want to hand out tonight?
Yeah, obviously thanks to Speed Cafe. It's great to have them on board as well. Ryko Performance as well as Hybrid Racing Simulations. Unfortunately, Luke couldn't utilise his pedals that he was gifted tonight, unfortunately. But I've got a new sponsor coming on board for next round, so that'll be exciting as well, just to fill the car out a bit more. I'd like to give a shout out to my spotter, Anton. I haven't given him a shout out all season and he's filthy with me, so thanks Kev. As well as Shane as well for getting up at, I don't even know what time it is over there, but it's just shows how committed to the cause he is to get up super early and watch a pretend car race online. So thanks to all those guys, as well as Numo for jumping in and helping Dylan out at last minute as well.
Well, congratulations, mate. Good job all around from the team, and best of luck for preparations as we lead up to Watkins Glen, mate. Until then, we'll talk to you next time.
Yep, thank you.
Cheers, Jared. There you go, Scotty. That's our top three, and what a cracking race we've had at Jerez tonight.
Yeah, and like I said, you know, it's tough, it's tricky, it's very easy to be critical of the guys that are in this series when we're sitting here in the commentary box, and we both like to drive things with traction control in them. And I've said that a number of times throughout the season. There's drivers I want to see do well this season. I'm really, really proud of that drive from Andrew Gilliam. I was wrong. I like being wrong, though. I like being proved wrong, because it says the driver's got that bit between his teeth. He's a little bit mad, and it shows out on track. But Speed Cafe guys, you can't look past them in terms of things, but how about this from terms of the championship standings? Dylan Rudd will still lead the way. The margin now blows out to 20 points. It was down under 10 points at the start of tonight's racing action. The 2 Vermilion Motorsports cars, well, there's a teams championship attached to this thing this season, and the drivers who sit in P1 in the teams championship, second and third in terms of the drivers championship, 18 points will separate those two. 16 points back to Freya. He'll say, yeah, look, that was probably a good night at the office, but Phil Sell and James Scott jumped from outside the top 10 inside the top 10. They're under 100 points now to the championship lead. For James Scott, he sits the furthest back. It's 90 points, 6 points ahead of him. Jared Philsell, 94 points. That margin comes down. Madison down. We'll look back at this one and go, man, I was just P nowhere here tonight. 8th place in championship points. And Brenton Hobson steps off of that 10th place into 9th. And I think the guy that's just in behind him, he deserves to be in this 10 as it currently stands as well. Great drive from him. In terms of things, we'll now cast our eyes a little bit further afield. We'll look down the road into the sunset. We'll look across the ditch from Europe, and we'll start to look to America. It's Watkins Glen. It's a cultural home of road course racing in the United States of America. You guys, if you want to come along and watch that one, June the 12th is when we're going to be going live from there, 7:45 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. And this track in this series, it's got history, Sandman.
Absolutely. I love this racetrack. Jared touched on it with the draft. It's so crucial around this racetrack. And it's really, it's going to be you're on the edge of your seats for the entire race. Quali's going to be interesting. Who's going to team up with each other, with their teammates, give them that little bit of draft and that slingshot effect in qualifying. But it's going to be an absolute cracker. Watkins Glen never disappoints.
You know, the best part, all the Americans can tune in for that race because even the NASCAR guys know how to drive Watkins Glen. That's how important an icon it is in terms of global motorsport. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Sandman, on behalf of myself, on behalf of our producer Dan Yeaman, with a big shout out to all the drivers that took part here tonight. What a phenomenal race from the Circuito de Jerez. Next time out, we head to Watkins Glen from Logitech, from OG Gamer Gear, from the Australian Sim Racing Group, and from Speed Cafe as well. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another race in the Australian Pro Invitational Series. We'll see you in a couple weeks from Watkins Glen. And that Ian Ford's longest lap of the year. That's live speed. That's not slowed down. But he has finished that one. So anyway, we'll see you next time out.